welcome everyone. It's so nice to see a semi-full boardroom, and so thank you for coming. We're glad you're here. Now, if our clerk would lead us in the flag salute. That you
Yes. I look around. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Reports out in closed session.
I'm sorry, I'm having to run the Zoom at the
No
same time
worries,
here.
no worries.
Okay. On item 3A, Alex motioned and Diane seconded to approve the certificated leaves of absence by a vote of 5-0. For item 3B, Jeannie motioned and Alex seconded to approve the classified leaves of absence by a vote of 5-0. Item C, Alex motioned and Diane seconded to revoke the stipulated agreement for case number 21-22-6 by a vote of 5-0. D, no action was taken. E, Alex motioned and Paula seconded to hear the complaint before the board in closed session at our next meeting by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Okay, we're to the informational part, and we're recognizing our retirees, special people that have given so much to our school district and our community. Thank you so much. Okay.
So we're going to recognize, we're going to have each of the supervisors come up and say something nice.
We require our retirees to do a dance, so Mr. Lilliker has prepared a dance for everybody, so to really show you his talents that he has. I forgot to tell you when I met with you today that that's what was happening.
We need some mazurka music.
Mr. Lilliker has been in education for 27 years, about 19 years. He's been here with us in Willits Unified School District, starting out as a special education teacher at San Hedrin and Willits High School, and then moved into the current position that he has as the social sciences teacher, history, psychology, and sociology. He was my oldest son's favorite teacher, creates an environment in his classroom where every student feels like they are capable of succeeding and are welcome. And we are going to miss you a lot, and I will be very jealous when I see all of your Facebook posts of all the places and things you will be doing while retired. So thank you very much for your service.
It does not speak to all the years of service that you've had, but we certainly.
But you know what, it's okay. Mine is fun. Put the girl on. Thank you so very much for all the years.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Good luck.
You're going to be busy.
Retirement's not such a bad thing.
Yeah.
Carol, come on with me. I wrote mine down.
So I'm here to talk about Carol Brinkerhoff. Carol is one of those teachers who can always be counted on to help others, whether it's taking students into her class because another teacher is suddenly ill, or helping a sub who needs lesson support, or helping a new teacher with planning. Carol is there for her colleagues always. Right? Am I right?
Yes.
She makes learning fun for her students, and she tells her students that no matter what, always tell the principal that we never have any fun in class. They tell me that, but I know different. Carol began her career as a fire prevention tech with the U.S. Forest Service. She started teaching in 2005 in Covelo when she taught middle school. And from there, she went to Sherwood, where she taught 2nd and 3rd grades, and then in 2009, she came to Brookside, and she's taught kindergarten and Route 1 ever since. The high point of her teaching career, she said, was when she taught 2nd grade. She got a student who didn't know how to read, and he read his first book ever in her class, and he came to her not knowing even his ABCs, so it was quite remarkable. The most interesting thing she has experienced as a teacher is how much a kindergartner can actually do and learn. They're supposed to be little, and it's shocking how much they know and what they can learn. Carol says that the funniest moment of her career was when Gina and I took the dump truck from Sherwood, took it to the dump after cleaning out the trailer, and then she said nothing else needs to be said about that. Carol would like to say it's been a great adventure being a teacher, and for me, working with Carol has been an extraordinary gift. She's a masterful teacher. She's highly requested by parents and family members, and she's just a treasure and a gem. So we'll miss you.
I don't know if you're gonna get one anyway. Just fall right here. Yeah. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I hate you dressed up like you did, but.
Carol was both my grandkids' kindergarten teacher. She's an absolute gem.
Andy Tuttle. Andy has been a school psychologist with us and primarily works at Blosser and at the high school. Andy has been a thoughtful, wise, and collaborative member of our special ed team. He's done everything under the sun to support our students, from assessment to determine students' needs, teaching students social skills, critical thinking, and is always a careful mentor to students who have crisis. There's times as educators we wonder whether all the work and dedication that we give to students, staff, and families has made a difference. The answer for Andy is a resounding yes. He's helped discouraged students believe in themselves, provided support and counseling to students with emotional needs in order to help them graduate, and has connected families with community resources when the help they needed was beyond what we could provide at school. And he was always willing to drop everything when there was a student in need, and we will miss you, but we wish you the best when you go down to Southern California to help be with your family there. And I just have to say, this is a thing we use in our special ed programs where you help kids do better by, they earn tokens, and then, you know, so Andy has been working for Fudge the last couple of years because he's finishing his reports and he's trying to upload everything, and you know, text not always his strength. And so you're earning your last token. So he's working for Fudge. Here we go. Last year, Andy earns it. It's up to the superintendent.
Yes, go right ahead.
I just would say Kelly and I go back a long ways. When I first rolled into Mendocino County, I was new in Ukiah Unified, and we came up with a really kind of controversial case, and Kelly was program specialist for MCOE at the time, and my director down there, Aaron Gardner, actually kind of assigned Kelly to oversee me on the case because it was like the first complicated one I'd done there. So that goes back essentially, I think, 15 years. It's been a real pleasure to serve here and get a chance to do, since I started 20 years ago, I wanted to do counseling with kids. And pretty much by and large with the 3 districts, the answer's always been, well, if you keep up with the assessments, we'll let you do counseling. This has been the first district where, no, it's actually built into the job. And it really has allowed me to make more of a difference, and it turns out I do seem to have maybe aptitude. I've helped create 3 different emotionally disturbed programs in Mendocino County. But like Kelly said, my family needs me down south, and I'm the executor of the estate, so if something were to happen, I'd have to leave the district in the lurch. So it really seemed like, just every way I looked at it, it just really seemed like the right decision for everybody. And I will continue to work. We've hired a replacement that I think will stick around. And I think that it's going to be a good, stable change. So it's been a real honor to be here and Willits Unified to finish out. So thank you very much. Hopefully I don't drop my budget. Thanks, sir. I've been enjoying working with you back there for a long time.
Okay, item 7B, recognition of reclassified English learners.
So our process for reclassification, our students come to us with, and there's a home language survey that's filled out that indicates if there's a language other than English that's spoken in the home. We then test the student to see if they have a proficiency in English, and if they don't, then it's our job to help them gain that proficiency. So these students have worked really hard to reach this major accomplishment. To be reclassified, an English learner must show proficiency in English on a test. The LPAC is what they call that. Have at least a C in their English class or their reading class, and if there's a grade, and have a score of at least standard nearly met in their statewide assessment, or be able to show that they're achieving on our district benchmark. So we're very proud of the hard work it takes to get to this point, and we want to say a big congratulations to these students. And I'm going to ask that the administrators come up and introduce the students that they have. These are not in order,
Okay. So, one thing about English learners that are, and actually multilingual learners, it's such a gift to be able to speak more than one language. And the students have to achieve a level of what's considered highly developed or highly developed English proficient. And the students here, given that we've had this pandemic, we're able to do this. And in addition to that, as Mr. Aldridge was saying, they have to be able to show that they are at grade level, or and there are students who we are recognizing are at grade level or above, so in English reading. So I'd like to first present Jason Masad, who is our fourth grader.
Good job.
And we also have Ismael Gabriel Jacinto Rizo, and he is another fourth grader who is being recognized, and I just love his students as well. We also have a third grader who is reading at almost end of fourth grade level, and that is our Ola Leon. I'd like to just mention these other two students. They aren't able to be present, but we have Mateo Perez and Bricia Sanchez.
Okay, so I already see one of my students here, and I want to tell you about this incredible student. Come over here, Sadie. This student is amazing. She's been in the program
She's
since.
also my swimmer. Makes her more amazing.
Yeah, that's right. She has been in the program since she was in kindergarten in 2013. And so we need to make sure that they're progressing well even outside of the program after she redesignated this year. She has earned straight A's in all of her classes in both the first and the second trimester of this year. And she has had A's and A pluses in every single class in her entire 3 years at Bechtel. They're involved in some way in the school, right? So Estrella is a member of our Communicators for Kindness club, and she's a very kind and calm individual. There can be complete chaos in the classroom, and she will be focused on her lesson and what it is that she needs to get done. She has played basketball, was in 6th grade band, and intends to go to college and become a medical doctor, and I think that she will accomplish that someday. Oh, I'm sorry, I have 2 others, but I don't think they're here. Guadalupe Zúñiga Mexicano is a 7th grader, and he also has achieved all A's and B's in all of his core classes, and he is a soccer player, but he is unable to be here tonight. He can't. And our other student is Kayla Núñez Prado, and she has also been in the program since kindergarten. She also has all A's and B's in all of her classes this year at Bechtel, and she's played basketball, she's a web leader, and plans to study cosmetology. So we're really proud of those 2 also.
You know, parents, can we have the parents either wave or stand up? Because you're a big part of making this happen. Thank you so very much. You're so important to the whole teaching process. Thank you. Okay. Any other recognitions that we're good?
That's it.
Okay. The McKinney Bento and Foster Youth Annual Update Information.
Did you get the PowerPoint I sent?
There you have it.
So, those of you who don't know Rose, this is Rose Mann, and she has very, very many hats. And one of them is helping our homeless youth through our McKinney Bento program, and she also assists me with helping our students who are in foster care. And we just have a little bit to share because there's some new laws and regulations that pertain to students who are in foster care or who are homeless, and hopefully Joe's finding what we want to share with you about that, because there's a whole lot of information and a whole lot of things that you may not know that Willits Unified is doing. And there we go. Ta-da! And I'll just let you click through. So, oftentimes these 2 groups of students are seen together because they have a lot of the same needs. And so, the data that we're going to be thinking about right now is from 1920, so the year kind of the pandemic came on. What we see in all kinds of demographics is that during the pandemic, we really aren't catching as many kids. So nationwide, can you believe it, 2.5 million children who are homeless. In Mendocino County, we have 753, and that's dropped because we're not catching kids. And so the next slide that we have shows what we have district by district. So in the previous year, 1920, Willits had 77 identified. 2021, we only had 45. And it's not because we have fewer homeless kids, it's really because we're not catching them. They're either not showing up to school, they're not coming in, or the family doesn't want to share that. And so one of the things that the state is really doing is trying to give us some more ways to outreach and really ask those pertinent questions. Go ahead to the next one. And it's not just us. So if you look countywide, about 700 kids in 15-16, and then poof, we were really good at identifying, and then it dropped off. You know, it goes up and then down during the pandemic. And then, next slide. There we go. So what's the definition of homeless? And I'm gonna let Rose talk a little bit about how she has these conversations, and we do have a questionnaire about it, but it's not just kids who are living in a park or living in a car. It's a fixed residence. So sometimes that means exactly that, you know, being in your car. But what are some of the other types of families we encounter, Rose?
So some of what we look at, you wouldn't necessarily think of right off the bat, but it is definitely not just our children who are living in their cars or in the park, but also kids who are couch surfing. And we find that at the high school more, but middle school and such, families who are doubled up or tripled up even, and living with friends or family members to make ends meet. And we have quite a few families that live in campgrounds, in camp trailers, and it is not adequate. Is not a word I would use to describe these situations. It is the best they're doing, and they're all doing what they can, but it is the definition actually on the form. The questionnaire asks that individuals who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence for humans. So when you add that to the end, sounds like a lot, but it is definitely that's a lot of what we're seeing is families who can't afford to rent or can't get a rental, or and they're living in campgrounds, or doubled up with other family members, or and the family. Some of the parents are living in a car, and the kids are staying with relatives. And we have families who are living in what can only be called a shack on somebody else's property, or a piece of property with multiple trailers, travel trailers and such, and no electricity, no running water. And that is under the guidelines as well. It's okay, but students who live in homes without water, running water, without electricity, we want to be reaching them as well. It's more than just, having a roof over your head isn't always ever the whole picture. Having all of your needs met is part of it.
I think the next one, and there'll be some that we're gonna, we covered that. Next one. Okay, so, when you don't have a fixed residence, you have rights, because things are harder. So you may not have internet, you might not have a ride to school. And so when a family is homeless, and we have had this quite a lot this year, there's a county liaison, her name is Blythe Post, and Blythe will call Rose and I and say, boy, we have this family, and they were in Round Valley. And while they were in Round Valley, they lost their housing, they're coming and they're gonna be at Creekside, and what can you do for them? And so sometimes what we want is to be able to transport that kid to their home school, right? So if they were in Ukiah and they lost their housing, and then they found housing in Willits, it's not fair to uproot the child and have them then need to get a new school, and new friends, and new teachers. So what the law says is that they can stay in their school of origin, unless it's not feasible. So Covelo is a tough one. And so we've worked with other districts about, you know, do you have transportation, do you have a van? Can we come and get the kid and bring them here or there? But they really do have the choice to stay in the school where they began the year, where they know people and they have friends. And so that's really an important part of law. And that means that when they register at a new school, we have to ask those questions. The next slide. Every one of our offices has the sign here, you can enroll in school. So the law says that if you're homeless and you don't have your child's immunization records, you can still enroll. We don't require them to show that, like to show that they live here, you know, a PG&E bill or something like that is not required. And so we want to make sure that they get what they need right away. Also, we have kids who are, and it's not so much of an issue with us because all of our kids have free lunch, but they don't have to prove, you know, they don't have to give us an income that they need to have nutritional assistance. So those are some of the laws that protect them. Look forward. Yeah. Computer's thinking and thinking. Sorry, guys. Not opening, Joe? That's all right.
Drop the
I think I'm gonna just talk us through the rest. Yeah, our internet's not big.
Throughout the list, sheriff's department send out a little.
All right, I got it here, and you're gonna just have to listen. Sorry, we don't have a visual. So the new law is that we have to post on our website that we have services for students who are homeless, and we have to ask every family at the beginning of the year in ways that are discreet. So we have a questionnaire that they can fill out. They can go onto the website and answer the questions when they do registration. Or what's sometimes better is if somebody that they're comfortable with on the school site is just talking them through and filling out the questionnaire for them. And so that's something that, you know, Joe and I earlier in this year made sure that we add and are connected. And then we have funding for those kids. And so we've set aside some money. And I think that's really the next piece that Rose can talk about because she has a plethora of things. We're not able to give money for housing. That's not part of the educational requirements, but we can do other things. So what do we do?
So let me start by saying, with the staff, our secretaries in this district are amazing. Like all of them have a nose for news, and they catch our students that need it and that need help. And so a lot of times that's one of the things is they'll catch it right off even before we started having to ask the questions when they enroll. They were catching it, and I wanted to acknowledge that because it's some tough questions. But some of what I have on hand, I have Mta Bus Passes, which, you know, if you have students that need to get around town or travel to Ukiah or something, we can give them those. We have laundry vouchers for Evergreen Laundryland, and I usually give a couple loads, and backpacks, really cool backpacks.
And yeah, we gotta give a shout out. Marion, last year there was an event called Socktober, and it's donating socks for homeless youth all over the country. And along with that, Mary reached out to different businesses here in town to give us low-cost backpacks, and not
That are
you know,
cool.
yeah, like
Maybe
Volcom
different ones,
backpacks,
cool.
and you know
Yeah.
that are just like anybody else. You wouldn't know that was a backpack the school gave you.
They're fabulous backpacks. We have socks, we have toiletries. I keep not a lot of clothes on hand, but some emergency change of clothes. And I'm trying to think, what am I missing?
Amazon for kids with
Yeah.
Alzheimer's.
And usually we use Amazon because it's easy. I have the kids come, they get about $100 to shop on there, and it's for school items. shoes and coats, but there's a coat drive at the beginning of the year, so I try to get them into that, and it's a separate program, but I do try to get them a coat through that, and then they can get shoes, or they can get pants, change of clothes, school supplies, but I also keep school supplies on hand. So I have pencils and notebooks, things that are required of every student in school, and those students may not have access to. Blue ink pens.
Snack packs.
Snack packs. Snack packs does the coat drive at the beginning of the year, and that's done through the county, Life Post, and they get delivered every Thursday or Friday. The kids can get them. It is not gourmet, but it will get your students through the weekend. It's things they can make on their own. A cup of noodle, instant oatmeal, a juice box of milk, a fruit snack for something sweet, sometimes some cookies, a can of tuna. They do ask now, do you have a can opener? I haven't had a student that needed one, but I'm sure that we could supply one. These are and they do the coat drive, and so every kid gets a nice brand new jacket that needs one, that is in the program, which is wonderful, except for that orange coat that one year.
Yeah,
I could never get rid of
give
it.
a kid you're not a Caltrans, you just don't want to stand out. So everybody wants an orange coat, it's in the drawer in the district office.
Years later, I still have it, and found that orange kid yet. But these are the things we do offer. I will say we have a couple students that we're doing transportation for. Right now, we have done in lieu transportation, where we reimburse the family mileage for driving their own student, because that's easier for the family, it makes more sense. But also, we will use special education transportation when we can. Right now, we have a transportation company driving some students because they need to get to school, and they weren't getting to school, and now they can, and they can have regular attendance. So that's one of the other things that we do, is try to keep them at school by offering transportation.
And then on the other side of the coin, we have students who are in foster care. Willits, I think, and I don't know if we'll be able to pull up the slide or not, but we have, we're the third highest group of foster families here in our community, which is bravo to Willits. That means a lot of folks are volunteering to be some foster families. Yep, that's it. So what happens when you're in foster care, sometimes you never get caught up. So you're working at a school and you've got tests coming up, and then something happens and goes wrong in your family, or you are moved to another foster home, and then you land in Ukiah, and there went all of your grades and all of the work you did. And so there's a really big achievement gap. So foster kids are a lot less likely to graduate. And so some of the things that we do to protect foster students, one, they're really covered in our LCAP, which is important, but they have a reduced number of credits that they need to do for graduation. So that's really important. They are eligible for extra tutoring. They're eligible through our county office for supports to come in. For example, if they have an IEP, they get, all those kids have an attorney that will come and advocate for them at their IEP. If they have discipline issues, lots of foster kids, they're just pretty stressed out, and sometimes they get in trouble. Their advocate, their social worker, and their attorney, we're required to call them and say, here's what's going on, here's the kind of help we need. So those are some of the kinds of protections. So we need to update you guys every year about what we are doing, because it's the things that we're supposed to do. So,
Well, and you like to do it.
we love to do it.
We do it because we love it.
Yes.
Any questions?
Kind of a two-parter. How is all this funded, and is it funded adequately for foster youth and homeless students?
I think that it's the number of students we have never had to turn a kid away. And a lot of times Mickey will actually pull from our Title I funding, just if we don't have it, because it's not like, okay, you get this much from the state, or you get this much, it's, the district has to, and Nikki has to build it in as an allocation. We do have funding from the county office, from the foster and homeless, office there, through Blight Post. So if there's things we can't do, for example, some kids need glasses, and so the county office will, you know, help connect them with getting the frames and the lenses. It's always good to have more, but we've never had to turn anybody
No.
down for something that they needed.
Well, these
Yeah,
are targeted groups in our
Yeah.
district plan, so, yeah. You know, I just want to extend my appreciation for your good work, because when you go out and make a difference in some of those children's lives, and you see what they're experiencing, and you're able to come in and help and get them to be more successful in school, that's big. It makes it all worth what we do here. So thank you so much for
Sure,
your
of
work.
course, and you know, Rose is so sensitive. I mean, I think one of the hardest things is to have somebody show up at your house or the place that you're not living, and she really just has that way to make people not feel uncomfortable, and so, yeah, I appreciate that about you. Thank you.
When my son was in school, he graduated in 2005, he had a friend that was homeless, that was couch surfing, and families around Willits would just take him in, and he'd live on their couch, but he'd be part of their family while he was living there, and then he'd choose to go someplace else, but he was taken care of. I don't remember what kind of programs were in place at that time, but he ended up graduating and even got a scholarship or two. And then when my son left for college, he came and lived with Jim and I for a while. And anyway, I think that I just think it's wonderful the kind of supports that are happening for kids. But also, we live in a community that looks after kids. And
100%.
we're a
Yeah, I
community
mean,
that
as far as
cares about kids.
some kids who are in high school, they don't know how to get on public benefits. Rose has actually taken kids to learn how to sign up for SNAP and for Medi-Cal, and because they don't have a parent who's doing that. So, yeah, if you start to dig a little bit, there's a lot we can do.
Right.
Yeah,
Is there a
actually,
difference,
that
I
was
wanted to
what I
ask,
said.
is there a difference in gender? I mean, is most of these kids,
No,
no? Okay.
yeah, or age. We got preschoolers
Yeah.
all the way up through our young adults. Yeah. All right, so that's that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, special education, disproportionality, and comprehensive early intervening services plan.
Maybe we can get the PowerPoint on that one.
How does it look, Kelly? How's it looking?
I know, right? I can't be that exciting. It's so much better to have visuals.
It's the blue screen.
I know. Bummer. Okay, well,
I can share it with the folks on Zoom, just not in the room right now. So
have it right here. Okay, and I'm gonna need to get to my notes. Okay, so, I think last year, we did a blurb about, we have been identified in our special ed department, as being under review because too many students are being identified to be in our emotionally disturbed programs, or as an eligibility of emotional needs. And what the federal government does is they look by race and ethnicity, and surprise, surprise, we have over-identified white students to be into the emotionally disturbed programs. And so this came up in the spring of 2020, right about when the pandemic happened. And we were required to put together a committee. We had lots of folks on it. Maria participated, Kathy, and we had to figure out why, right? So what are the root causes of this? And then how are we gonna fix it? So we're not sending all these kids to special ed and having them go to other places. So what we found at that time are the 3 root causes. One, Willits Unified had lacked structured activities, strategies, and cultural responsiveness to connect with and engage families. So we did lots of interviews. We talked to parents, we talked to the kids, and they're like, I didn't want to be here, I didn't care, I didn't feel connected, so that was one of the causes that we found. We also found that our regular didn't have the capacity to support kids who've been through trauma. So when you've had a lot of things going on, you may not be able to focus and concentrate. You might yell, turn over your desk. And so one of the things that we really wanted to do, because we felt like we haven't given enough training to our teachers and our yard duties and our secretaries, so we haven't been providing ongoing professional development about that. So that was another piece that we wanted to fix and work on. And then third, historically, we've had some really good programs for kids with emotional needs. Way back, Trish Brown, I think, ran our first program for kids with behavior problems many years ago. And they're good programs. But what has started to happen is you think, okay, this kid can't focus and they're yelling or they're having trouble, they need to go over to that class. And so when we did all of our interviews, really most people in the district thought, well, that's how to get them help, right? We're gonna identify them for special ed and we're gonna send them over here. So the federal government says, don't do that. We have to fix it in some other way. So we found themes from families saying the student didn't have a positive peer relationship or a relationship with their teachers. Families wanted more phone calls about good things instead of the problems. The kids needed to be more active. We had some students say, I was like so behind, I didn't know what anybody was doing. I need to get up and move more. So the goal is to give these kids support early on. So we were required to write a plan for early intervention. And the team really put together, I think, something that's working well. So right now we have monthly trainings for trauma that are done by Stephen Hom from the county office, and he's a trauma trainer. And some of you guys have been participating. He does one in person and one online. It's ongoing. So yard duties, teachers, everybody's welcome to participate and learn a little bit more about what to do. Then we purchased a screener for every single teacher, and we haven't given it to you guys yet, but to find out at the beginning of the year which kids are concerned about, which kids are having trouble sharing or getting along for K-5. Then we purchased a curriculum called First Step Next, and with the, this is a piece I didn't cover. It's not new money. What we had to do was take special ed money, 15% of the federal money we get for special ed programs doesn't go to special ed, it goes to, we had to move it into these programs that we're gonna do early intervention. So Jackie Hers, who's our elementary counselor, is now there, and she's implementing these programs about teaching kids, what to do. And I know both Brookside and Blosser have had Jackie now. Before you think, okay, I gotta refer that kid to go over there. No, I'm gonna call in Jackie, and she's gonna teach them the skills. She meets with their families, and she meets and supports the teachers. So that's a part of our program. And then we also hired 2 classified staff. They're called student intervention techs. And so you don't need to have an IEP, but Melissa can say, I don't know what to do with this kid. She gets on board with Jackie, and then we have a behavioral aid at Brookside and a behavioral aid at Blosser that can come in and provide some support, kind of teach the kid or give them some tokens or reinforcers when they're doing well. So that's another piece. And so sadly, one of the reasons I'm telling you about this again is that we put the program together and then we got everybody on board in January, but they measure every fall 1, right? So we were under review from the previous year, and then we put together this program, and we have the same problem, right, from fall 1 of 2021. So now we're under review again for the same thing. So it doesn't seem to make sense, but so we're gonna have to go another year of using 15% of our dollars for these kinds of programs, and what they're telling us is we have to deepen the program or expand it or see if there's anything that's missing. But I'm fingers crossed that this is working and that we're going to see a reduction in the number of ED referrals. So that's that. Any
Thank you
questions?
so much. Those skills are so necessary, especially to increase the amount of teaching that actually goes on, because when you have a crisis in a classroom, teaching all but stops. And so if they have those tools to catch it before it gets to that point, it'll make a big difference to all the students in the classroom.
Right, and we really felt that we didn't want to put it on to the classroom teacher alone. So
Right.
definitely giving training, but you need somebody to come in and help.
Right.
And so that was one of the things we
Right.
wanted to do with the council.
Kind of like a response team or a
Yeah.
response person, right?
And so did you happen to include in your concerns about why so many of the white ethnicity
Yeah.
group were targeted as opposed to any of the others?
We did look at that, yeah.
And kind of, if you can,
Mhm.
what did you figure? That some kids just aren't
So,
identified, or there aren't any?
no, there are. So what they do is they look at, okay, so of the about 1,500 kids in Willits Unified, this percentage of kids are white, this percentage of kids are Native American, et cetera. And then we look at the 260 kids who are special ed, and the percentage of kids who are white with emotional problems is greater than the percentage of kids overall in the district. So we really thought a couple of things. One is there's some community supports for kids of other ethnicities. So Nuestra Alianza is fantastic, and so there's more community supports out there. There's a summer program, et cetera, and so fewer kids of the Hispanic ethnicity are identified as, I mean, there's some, but not as many. And then the tribe has a lot of supports. We have tribal education, et cetera, but we don't have one that's for everybody, right? So even though kids of all ethnicities are welcome to participate, they're not really targeting that group. And we have had a turnover in community counseling. So, you know, you get referred and you've got family issues, and you get assigned a therapist, but they then go move to Ukiah because they can make more, or, you know, they're not able to find housing. And so there's a real turnover in, you know, even MCYP, who's fantastic and we've worked with, we've had a couple of different counselors that they don't stay. So that's, I think that's one of the reasons, Paula, is that we have some really good community supports that target particular groups, but this group of kids isn't being caught.
But the school still identifies them, right? And so they're just not being serviced because they don't seem to need it, because they're getting it elsewhere, or because, it just seems.
No, they are, so, if off the top of my head, so let's say we have 13 students who have emotional disturbance. Of those 13, we have this many who are Hispanic, this many who are Native, and this many who are white. Proportionately, there's more white kids. The kids who are in those other ethnicities, they're not having those issues. They don't need to be referred for special ed as much because they're doing okay emotionally and behaviorally.
Okay.
So we even got down to the nitty-gritty talking about family structure within those different ethnic groups and communities and what that looks like as compared to a different group. When we talked about like during the pandemic time and the kids that were running around town without parents and the other kids who had multiple families that they were going to stay with their families.
Yeah,
So
with
there
an
was, like,
auntie
a lot
or
of different-
grandparent, yeah.
A lot of different things that we looked at when we were talking about the disproportionality.
Some kids that live in homes in which there's trauma and difficulties don't respond by acting out. Some of them respond by receding inside
For
themselves.
sure, yeah.
And so what kind of, we help the kids that are acting out because they're acting out and it's obvious, but
The behavioral screener, I'm glad you brought that up,
Yeah.
has that as one of the behaviors that the teachers will assess the students on, and that also comes with like training of trauma-informed practices, like you'll notice the kid who pulls his hood over his head and just sits quiet and doesn't say anything, or an abrupt change in behavior. So that is true. It's not only the kids who are the ones who are yelling or fighting or causing outbursts, it's the silent ones too. And that screener helps to identify those kids in your class too. Yeah.
And the teachers know, I mean, we're screening to make sure we catch everybody, but pretty early on, you know that withdrawn kids are the kids that are anxious and they don't wanna come to school, or there's something that they're really stressed about. They might not be disrupting the class, but this program catches those kinds of kids.
Good, that's great.
Kelly, if you could do it real quick, I have a question. Our behavioral RTI, I don't know how well implemented or well designed it is on the sites and how it relates to our ED children.
So we had to look at that. We had to look at all kinds of things. So we do have really good PBIS initiatives, positive behavior supports, going at Brookside and at Blosser. Jeff Kramer's been a big part of that. We've got support from the county office. You guys at Blosser, I think you're in year 3 or 4, but it's really starting to roll. 4. Yeah. So. Yeah. So we do have a lot of good things going for all kids. It's just when they rise to that, like, that they need more than just the school-wide stuff. Yeah.
So all of the sites signed up for the multi-tiered systems of support grant, so all Willits Unified School District will be participating in that. And that's kind of the same as the response to intervention. You look at that piece under the umbrella of all the different things that you do at the site, so I feel like that will be something that will be growing in a lot.
Because not having that good behavioral RTI can be a stumbling block for your regular RTI, because classroom management has to come first.
Yeah. Something you guys should think about is that we need to make it sustainable. So the Jackie and the aids and all of that, that's right now, we have 3 years to use that to make it better. But we have to decide how we're gonna keep that program going when we put that 15% back in the special ed programs. So turn your wheels about how to do that with the budget. All right,
Thank you for all you do,
Kelly.
And Rosa.
Okay, let's see, where are we at? Public disclosure, fiscal impact, and proposed agreement with WUSD classified management, confidential classified, and unrepresented.
And so this is our final agreement needing public disclosure for our negotiations through this year, and would come back in our next regularly scheduled meeting for consideration for approval. The unrepresented employees and classified management and confidential classified all were offered the same increases that we had for our CSEA unit, 3.5% and $500 a month on their medical benefits. And this will start for the 22-23 school year. And any direct questions about the public disclosure, I would, if we can get Nikki on board, that would be, I would direct them towards her.
Hey everybody, I'm here if you have any questions.
Nikki, is there anything else you'd like to share other than what our superintendent has shared?
No, I think as he pointed out, this is kind of the last in the sequence of the negotiations process. So, as I pointed out the last time we looked at a public disclosure, this highlights the cost of this one item. It doesn't factor in every single of the others that we've done kind of in short order here in the last few meetings. So what we'll be seeing when we come at estimated actuals will be all of the currently settled bargaining agreements and salary settlements incorporated into the estimated actuals in June.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
The multi-year projections show deficit spending in years 2 and 3, but I'm assuming that's with the assumption that there's no other significant changes in revenues. Is that correct?
Right, so that's based on essentially the multi-year projection that we looked at second interim, and the only other change being factoring in the cost of this settlement. You guys may have been tracking kind of what the discussions at the state level have been, and things are shifting quickly in terms of the proposals for school funding, so that could look really different. We're expecting by Friday to hear the governor's proposal for the May revision, and then basically between then and June, he and the legislature will be negotiating, for their state budget. So, it's kind of hard to anticipate, but the only known numbers at this point were the second interim estimates.
Got it, thank you.
Any other questions for Nikki or our superintendent? Hearing none. Let's go to item F, Facilities Assessment Report.
And so at this point, this report has been delayed. Our consultant contracted a severe illness and is unfortunately not able to be here. So as soon as it is available, I will make that available publicly so that we may also have a discussion on it at June 15th meeting. But my hope is that we will have that report in hand before that.
Thank you. Item 8, WTA comments. Good, good.
So I turned 46 last year, and 3 years ago, I had to adjust my glasses. To add glasses, and so
Welcome
you
to
have my computer here, so I can change the font from 125, which you want to type at, to
Yeah, it only gets
150,
worse
which
from
I can
here.
read at.
Yeah, it only gets worse.
Yeah, that's what I hear. My father said the exact same statement.
Yeah.
So
Two
I wanted to.
175s right here.
I'm Brian Bolton, and I'm speaking on behalf of Tessa Ford tonight in the place of the presidency for WTA. I want to thank the special ed and everything that goes into that for all that they do to support our district, our staff, and most importantly, our students, which is, of course, why we're here. So that report was fantastic. Thank you for all that went into it, and thank you for everything you do to improve what we have going here every day. So I want to give you, I've got a bunch of different updates that have kind of gone on in our district. First and foremost, our sports update. Today was the last softball game of the season. So it was our last league game of any sport, in fact. Our track team had, I'll give you a little bit of a positive and negative, they had some of the highest scores and were on track to beat the 4x4 record, the 440. And they won every race all season, and in the finals, one of them dropped the baton.
Oh.
Became a scratch.
Oh,
So
it's a heartbreaker.
heartbreaker on that one. Individually though, we do have our athletes moving on into North Coast Section Championships this Saturday, so cross your fingers, and as they finish up their seasons on our last one, I'll probably give an update specifically for sports and what the total outcomes are. We have some challenges in sports, and so I'd like to point out that all sports all year have had incredibly tough times finding referees. And so in the audience and here, anybody that has the right temperament for the job, which requires the right temperament for the job, I recommend that you go out and become part of the community and help out our youth, because we definitely need more referees. And if you need help finding that location, you can call me and email me at my school website or school email. I've got a quick just touch base. I sent the board and Joe a facility update back in September. Our whole school was using the 2 bathrooms up by the auditorium as our only site for restroom. And so ultimately we had to file a grievance. There's a considerable amount of problems with bathrooms across our whole WHS site. Joe responded with a promise to get a list of how and when they would be updated with October 29th, I believe, the deadline. We did a walkthrough last week and found that we are still lacking, and a lot of those promises were not done. I also gave a tour to 2 of our board members so they could see firsthand kind of what we're dealing with. It's multiple levels contribute to the problem. One being an ongoing graffiti, an ongoing destruction of our bathrooms. And so that is something that, and I'll touch base on why I think that happens, specifically at this site, since that's where I'm at. But we look forward to a response from Joe on that, as well as the board. I know you've seen it, so please give us a response at your earliest convenience. One of the other things that have happened in our bathrooms and within our school district is an increase in graffiti. And I don't know that it's necessarily an increase, but it's a decrease in the ability of staff to take care of it on a regular basis. We do have one supervisor that's supposed to walk around. That person is out on a medical leave, and their position was not replaced. And so the only people that check the bathrooms are teachers that decide to use the student bathrooms. So that's the only way that we have any kind of surveillance
I
going
go
on
in there
there.
all the time.
And Mary.
Yeah. I'm in the locker room and the girls' bathroom. I don't go in the boys. That's Mike does the boys. Yeah.
When he can.
Yeah.
Yes. So it becomes a problem because it becomes a point where, illicit drugs are being used, cigarettes are being smoked, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's contributing to a culture that's declining here. And so I worry about that. I have a son, freshman here, and he comes and tells me what he sees every day, which is different than what any of us will see every day. And it's much less pretty than what I see. So I'm worried about it, I guess is a fair and lighthearted statement. I think an increase in supervision is needed for a lot of reasons, and so just bathrooms are one of them, but really just the truancy, the tardiness at our classrooms, that would help all of it. I was not in school today. I was in Lower Lake doing a visit to help their union, because there's no subs, so they can't address our concerns with their members. And as I walked around, I met one supervisor after another, after another, after another. We had our name tags on. They greeted us. How can I help you? Where can you go? They're interacting with kids, reminding them that the bell had rung. Hurry up, the bell's gonna ring. All those kind of things that are helpful to get kids where they're supposed to be going. And their presence, when I also decided to use the bathroom, whether I needed to or not, I wash my hands in one and use the other. No graffiti. People are actually using the bathroom and leaving, washing their hands. Paper towel dispensers worked. Toilet paper dispensers were not broken. And they are about 4 times the size of Willits High School.
What high school was that again?
Lower Lake High School.
Lower Lake High School.
So we compete with them in wrestling. I ended up getting to talk to their football coach, one of their football coaches, and some of their, a lot of their teachers obviously take that there for. But they did not have the same feel as you walked around campus. It was a clean campus, and it was a healthy campus as far as interaction with the supervisors, the teachers, and bathrooms, which of course I was paying attention to as of late. To bring the mood up, I hope, I wanted to, we spoke about our custodians at our meeting and after, and we chose 3 that we wanted to highlight. Across our district, we have a absolute, lull of staff in our custodian department. Many places have just one day and one night. Some sites have just one custodian for the whole school. And so I wanted to recognize that our custodians that are there are working day in and day out, and I want to give them a shout out for professionalism under pressure, because there's a whole bunch of people that rely on them. And Val Nieto is our day custodian at Blosser. Miguel Nunez is our night custodian at WHS, and Ruben Nieto is our day custodian at Brookside. And I wanted to say a special thank you to those three for doing what most people would have quit doing long ago. So, thank you to those three and everybody else, but those were the three whose names continue to come up as we considered it. They were kind, they're considerate, they have a positive attitude, and they continue to do above and beyond what they need to for our students. We also, at our last meeting, WTA recently discussed the concept of an assistant superintendent. Willits will be the only school in Lake and Mendocino County, besides Ukiah, to have an assistant superintendent. And some cautions there from us. We don't have custodians. We don't have paraprofessionals. We don't have enough teachers on most days. And I think it's a little bit cart before the horse to put in an assistant superintendent prior to having all those things covered. Because all those things covered directly affects our students. And I feel like everybody in this room is here to benefit the student, and the student first. That position will likely cost more money than, and cost the district money that we could actually put towards more one-on-one with our students. It also becomes a long-term position. And as we all know, the board changes, superintendents change, and it's very unlikely for a superintendent 2 years down the line to recommend to the board that we drop the assistant superintendent position, because it is in their best interest to keep the hired help in the middle management. So we caution you strongly about the precedent you'll set by creating this position. We remind you that you're trying to be fiscally responsible, as we hear when we're at negotiations. And so please keep that in mind when you make a decision. Let's see here. We further discussed how much the lack of support staff affects the education of our students, both directly and indirectly. We look forward to supporting CSEA during their next bargaining cycle. They deserve a fair and equitable pay compared to other job opportunities in our county. The district only functions productively when we are all working toward the goal of educating the whole child. If we can get a job at McDonald's or Starbucks or In-N-Out Burger and it pays more than $1 or $2 or $3 with benefits and retirement plans, it's really hard to attract the right kind of people that we want sailing the ship with. So I just want to make a point there that we really appreciate our brothers and sisters in CSEA, and we need to make sure that the board and the district appreciate them so that they can continue to stay and live in this community. Okay, to switch Google Docs here. We spent 3 hours, I think, at least 2.5 in a meeting on Monday discussing reading specialists and our TOSAs in general. So we have, I believe next year we're slated to have 6 TOSAs, 2 of them being coaches, 1 at each site for Oversight and Gloucester, and the remaining 4 being reading specialists. I believe everybody got a copy of WTA's, we try to make it a bulleted format so that we could understand it. And I won't go through the whole thing word for word, but some of the big points that I'd like to make sure that is heard publicly is that we need to increase our aid positions. They allow the teachers to do both first tier interventions for reading and second, because we can actually create small groups within the classroom, and that teacher, after doing the tier 1 intervention or instruction, can follow back up with the next level group and pinpoint those needs. If we don't have enough aides to help with those groups within the classroom, that cannot happen, and all we can do is the tier 1. And the tier 2, tier 3 interventions cannot occur as efficiently. They allow for better level groups of readers. They allow, Gloucester needs to observe and adopt Brookside's scheduling and utilization of their aids. We've seen, and I believe the board has seen, the increase in our reading scores at Brookside. We have some recommended go-to people to discuss that, and that is Diane Johnson at Brookside and Shelby Dodd at Gloucester. They have done a phenomenal job with our students and a great job with pull-out, figuring out how to find the most minutes they can work with those kids from 8:30 to 3:30. And they deserve a 5-month vacation. Of course, we can't do that, I know, but they have worked tirelessly. And I think every single teacher I talked to at Brookside said Ms. Johnson was the reason that their scores went up at that site. So, I want to give her a really shout out for that. She gets the kudos too, it's communicated. Shelby Dodd she came back mid-year, or a little bit after mid-year, and took on a lot of roles, one of them being the reading specialist, and also did a phenomenal job with that program in the small amount of time that she's had to work with those kids. So again, I wanted to shout out to Shelby Dodd at Gloucester as a role model and a person to go to look for information. Let's see. Improved scheduling also needs to be looked into at both sites, but especially at Gloucester. Scheduling to increase student time with a teacher or an aide. Small group interaction and practice is the most important factor in growth of reading. I'm sure Erin can back me up on a lot of some of the things that I'm saying. I know that she's been knee deep in a lot of what we're talking about right now. Another really important thing that we think will improve reading scores are hiring the 2 PE teachers that we're supposed to have at both Gloucester and Brookside. That is paramount, we believe. Not only does it create and improve the whole child, increases their health, increases the amount of time that their brain can actually get good blood flow, good oxygen flow. And multiple teachers have said that's the absolute best time to teach writing is after PE. Because they walk in, they've gotten all that nervous energy out, they can actually focus, they don't have all the jitters that they have when they don't get a chance to exercise. So we all know how important reading and writing and how they go hand in hand. We have a problem with our yard duty positions being utilized, of our aides being utilized for yard duty positions. And we highly recommend yard duty positions be their own position so that we can continue to keep our paraprofessional and our aides that know what they're doing in the reading specialist program focused on the goal of improving our reading. Again, the reading curriculum, and I would like to move on to the reading coaches and curriculum. Everybody agreed that I spoke with that the most beneficial use of a coach is to have them as a role model in their classroom. And there's multiple reasons for that, but the main two are you get the interaction with the teacher and teacher. The student gets the interaction of a new voice and a new tone, inflection. All those things contribute to improved comprehension and reading. They get extra examples of it. And that also gets the biggest bang for our buck because our coaches will then be moving from one spot to the next, simultaneously improving our reading scores for our kids and coaching our teachers to become better reading specialists themselves. So I look forward to Miriam, and I believe McKinsey is in that position right now for those two positions as coaches. McKinsey is in a reading specialist role, so I don't know who the other coach is yet. The other thing that we hope that position does is prepare the materials as requested by the teachers, so they're absolutely a support mechanism for the teachers. And we think the best time to get the majority of the coaching is actually pre-school starting. So before school starts, we think there should be paid time to make sure that the teachers have time with the curriculum, and not only just with the curriculum, conceptually, but with the actual materials at hand, so they can figure out how to utilize them in the classroom. Historically, we've had concepts, but no materials to manipulate before school starts. We want to put an important asterisk on that one and make sure that we have the materials, both online and physical copy of it. And built-in times of collaboration is incredibly important. And this is, I'm going to give the kudos to Melissa for bringing this one up, Melissa Coughlin. But the importance of a level book room could not be stressed enough across all K-5 teachers. At Brookside, they have a great example of what is needed at Blosser, both in book levels and coordination of checkout. That site has an incredible program. It's already kind of dialed in. The concept is, as a teacher, you can send, either you go or you can send a group there. There's a box that is at the level of the students that they need and they can read and access. They pull it out, they can choose where it is, boom, and now they're immediately within a few minutes reading at the level that they need to be reading at. And they have a plan. I don't understand the plan, but Melissa understands the plan about how to check in and check out and how that goes. And it's important because, again, all those interactions take time away from learning. And so we really think that book room is an example of a success story that absolutely supports our students' improvement. And I'm going to put a little bullet in there for COVID funds. I think this is an absolutely appropriate use for COVID funds to get our kids up to help create that book room at Blosser. I don't have it on my slide here, but please correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Sunday? Sunday is a program, the phonics program, that K-5 believes is important. Not only for K-5, but it would actually go K-12 if need be, right? Because we have students that are at the whole spectrum at all of our grade levels. And so the importance of having that linear program available K-12 realistically is a good idea, we think. It can be used as our tier 2 interventions at the middle school level. I know it's not on my notes necessarily, but there was discussion about the need for extra support, especially at that 6th grade level, next year's 6th grade, because this year's 5th grade is a class that's going in and we need that extra support, and they're going into a different world, right? They're going into changing classes from a self-contained, and they are, you know the data. There's an absolute need there to improve their scores. And so I know our focus right now is K-3, but our overall focus, of course, is still K-12, the whole child. So I wanted to make sure I put in the concept of that phonics program. And it's something we already have. It's been on our shelf. We would like more time to dive in curriculum. I believe both Shelby and Diane have said, ho, 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 that's the one. Fair?
Just
Okay.
like that.
A little bit higher voice. But,
Yeah.
okay. And there starts the memes. Okay. Let's see. To finalize this, we as WTA believe it's important to be proactive, that the district is inclusive in planning and scheduling, and starting now for next year, to allow students to hit the ground running on day one of school. We absolutely look forward to being a huge part of the solution. We're excited that the board is behind us for the reading program. We look forward to more interactions from the board and more input and listening from us to back and forth as a communication. So we absolutely request that you come in contact any of us to speak tonight. But if you want contacts, you're welcome to call me up, call Tess up. We'll get you in touch with anybody, and we would like to form some committees to see how we can further improve our reading scores, specifically as an important goal for next year. So I would like to conclude with a sincere goodbye to Joe. I think you did a fantastic job improving our culture during the year that you're here. I respect you because of all your help and appreciation of kids and how important it is to have a whole child. And I think that is, from day one, you and I saw that as a target, and it was a pleasure working with you. You you will be missed. Fort Bragg will be very happy to have you. And I would also like to end with, I checked EdJoin this morning and I saw that the position is flown. And so I look forward to getting outside candidates that can bring a fresh look to our community yet again, and somebody that can get the ground running as well, and a little bit more direction from the board to make sure that they are paying attention, listening, and doing the best to create a whole child. Thank you all. I know that was a long president's speech.
Thank you, Brian.
I appreciate all of your time.
You dished out a lot of meat tonight, and I appreciate that. That had to do with kids, curriculum and instruction. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Solid.
Paula, and then
Just,
Alex.
on your kudos to the custodians, that was really nice, but Ruben Nieto doesn't work here anymore. Ruben, whose last name I've forgotten, does, and so
I
we just,
apologize,
I
Ruben.
figured as much, it's just so that he knows it's him.
Thank you.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Anybody have last?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Alex.
So you mentioned having resources available for those teachers in advance of the school year so they can be prepared. If they have that, I should say, if they don't have that, how long does it take for teachers usually to get up to speed from day one and on?
So I think, to answer your question on the fly.
What does that first week of instruction look like?
Well, I think what you're asking is what kind of time requirements are necessary to get all that up to speed. And on the fly, I would say 2 days of time with it, which would allow time for the individual to look at it and time to collaborate across the grade levels, and then from below grade level to the next grade level, so we can start to articulate what we're doing with our kids. We also have a lot of data, hopefully, coming in about who is where, and that takes time to figure out where to put those kids and level them. That'll be part of the coach's job, I think, as well, but really the coach's job working with the team of teachers. Because again, we're all a team here, and if we don't work as a team, we fumble the ball. And, every team fumbles. We've fumbled before. I just hope that we continue to hold the ball tight, especially the reading scores. We want to go up, and we look forward to changing our goal as we improve all of our reading scores and tackling the next hurdle. But we are here. We appreciate the professionalism of all of our teachers, all of our CSEA staff, and all of you.
So there are a couple of days of professional development before school starts.
Typically
It's
every
already
year.
built into the schedule, but there's a lot of required trainings that the teachers have to do every year, like the Keenan Safe Schools trainings. And so I think what Brian was talking about is 2 days besides those days, because one of those days is in the classroom, getting your classroom ready, is to have 2 days besides that. And I think that's what the principal-
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's 2 days
and it-
besides those first 3 days to add to before school starts.
Do we provide that professional development now to aides and substitutes as well?
No.
Clearly, that's a mistake.
Some aides, yes. Some,
Not all. And
So-
no to substitutes, nothing at all to substitutes for even school rules, like, no.
Yeah, I would say one thing to caution us all on is the misuse of doesn't matter, you name the position as substitutes. And I know that we've been in a crazy year this year, but I think that use as coverage has pulled away a lot of our TOSAs and misused them and negatively affected our growth for our students. So I caution us to not.
That's across many districts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would be lying if I stood here and said that never happened in Lower. It happened
It's a
across the
bad
district.
season we're in right now.
It is indeed.
I just wanted to say that my family has personally benefited from the wonderful reading program at Brookside. And Melissa is my granddaughter's second grade teacher, and Lucy is the youngest in the class, I believe. We're very close to the youngest in the class. And she gets help from Diane.
You have to show that picture.
I am gonna show you some. Anyway, Lucy, she's a creative kid. She loves to draw. She loves art. She's a social kid, but reading's been a struggle for her. And Kids Club was, I think, closed down this week because of maybe an outbreak, I don't know, but she couldn't go to Kids Club, so I was asked to pick her up. And she went immediately to her art table when she came into the house. And then I got out this book that I had just bought, and I said, maybe Grandpa will read this to you. And next thing I knew of, she was curled up in the rocking chair, reading quietly to herself.
Oh.
I have never seen my granddaughter reading quietly to herself. And that's
That's good website.
so anyway, that's what you guys do. And I also volunteer in Melissa's class once a week, and I see these level books, because the kids come to me every Wednesday and read to me in different groups, and they have each member of the group has a book bag that's almost similar to the other kids in that group, and so I see the level books and how each group works, and anyway, I appreciate everything that you guys do, so.
We just want to continue to use what's working successfully and not reinvent the wheel. That's whenever we can help them. Thank you again. Later, I think there's some public comments. I do have a few things that I'll be speaking for the people that cannot attend tonight, but that is my president's speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. CSEA comments.
Good evening, everyone.
How you doing, Dan?
Dan, I'm agreeing with TSA. I'm doing great. WTA comments, very interesting. Working together benefits everyone. And it would be good to get on that platform. I like Kelly. That special ed is pretty amazing, I tell you. And to me personally, I think a lot of the issues that I see around here are pretty trivial compared to what special ed has to go through. And that's pretty challenging. And Rose, I think when we talk about everybody's jobs at the district, everybody has a different task. And everybody really sees their task, pretty much their task and not everybody else's task. And it's pretty hard to see what everybody else does until you have somebody come up and kind of explain what you do, which is it's pretty deep. And I got a feeling the job description that's on the book pretty much doesn't say anything about what she's doing. So we'll probably have to work on that a little bit. But thank God there's people around that do enjoy, helping people out, doing things. Pretty much every job classification is understaffed, but everybody's making it work out, which is great. They're working good at it, keeping things open, keeping things working, which is really good. And then I'd like to thank Joe. We had a great year. It was good. I think what you did was positive. And good luck in your next adventure. And we're going to go rock fishing one day. We know how that turns out. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. Okay. Board comments. Alex, would you like to begin?
A little other than to say thank you to WTA. Nice presentation. Thank you to Kelly and the special ed group. Once again, awesome presentation. Great information. I'm really pleased that we're still moving forward and looking for more solutions with respect to our literacy innovation programs. As you know, that's near and dear to my heart, and I'm pushing real hard to find every opportunity to help make you successful, and looking forward to finding whatever resources that you guys need. That's where we are.
Paula.
Well, half the stuff I had to say, Brian said already, so thank you very much, Brian. And,
Okay, you're done then?
no. Anyway, but I did want you to know that a number of us have been taken on a really nice, tour of the school to see the various things that look really good and nice and to see the things that are going to be improved. In particular, the mural over here by the Native Americans and the other group I forgot. Oh well, you'll know it when you walk past it. It looks beyond outstanding. It has been definitely slow in showing up. They have waited 2 full years, but it's been a very, very fun thing to see. You know, some of our kids go and help in a mural that used to happen all the time at Brookside. They'd always do a little mural. But this time, it's just outstanding over there, and it's a real sincere event. I also want to push that staffing. I brought a part of the paper. It shows the 3rd week in a row where we are advertising, we meaning the district, for a bus driver. That's really nice. I was really happy to see that. I was absolutely frustrated and annoyed that that's the only thing I saw there, when all of this time, since before August, we have been looking for custodians, we have been looking for paraprofessionals. We don't seem to have a lot of trouble finding paraprofessionals, but we are not overloaded in the applicants that come here. Those that showed, I truly believe, unless there's something horrendously wrong with them, that they need at least an interview. And we need such an overflow that we get substitutes and we can find the very best positions for the staff we currently have so that the operations here run a lot more smoothly. That has concerned me forever. You hear it from me all of the time, but you just need to know you get to hear it again until it happens. I'm especially impressed that there were kudos to custodians who do above and beyond. Yay, honey, he's over there. And lastly, about the book room at Brookside. You know, Brookside, when they switched to all those leveled books, it took some paraprofessionals and 2 teachers 2 full weeks to organize and set that up. It is the smartest plan ever, but it takes time. We are really fortunate in this district at this point in time anyway, I believe, that there is adequate funding for exactly that to happen. And so it can be done, it can be set up so that in the future all of Blosser Lane or anyone else has exactly what they need. And it wouldn't hurt if this room here had something similar for those kids who also need that additional support. And so, okay, now take your turn. No.
Jeannie, go ahead. Thank you, Paula.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I just wanted to say that I continue to feel just absolute pleasure in going to school sites and going to school events and seeing people's whole faces and interacting with people and seeing the kids running around maskless for the most part and enjoying their lives. It's just a real pleasure to me. It really warms my heart. So this past month I attended online the webinar put on by the California School Board Association on universal transitional kindergarten, which is going to be now required of school districts. And I get a lot out of the trainings and the webinars that the California School Board Association puts on. So anyway, and I had the pleasure of attending the dedication of the Indigenous Missing Women's mural project, and it was a wonderful community event. And anyway, it's a wonderful community event, and it speaks to something that needs to be addressed. So anyway, I got a lot out of that, and then I attended the Renaissance Fair at Bethel Grove, and that was just really fun to watch and to be to observe and to look at the projects that the kids have done and the different activities that went along with the Renaissance Fair. It was quite an undertaking of the school, and I had never been to one before, and even though I had taught at Bethel Grove, they didn't have that happening then, and I was just really impressed with the work that entailed and the pleasure that the kids took in what they had accomplished. So. And then I also have the pleasure of attending both the Blosser Lane and the Bethel Grove Middle School open house, and seeing again the staff and being able to see people's faces and look to see the projects in the classroom and the warmth of the staff. It's, and the excitement of the kids with their families. And again, I really appreciate the work that Brookside does, and that my granddaughter has benefited a lot from Melissa and from Diane. So thank you. And I also want to say that I also got a lot out of the communication from Brian regarding the facilities at the high school. I did not realize that things were in such bad shape with the bathrooms, and to me that's really basic. I mean, bathrooms are pretty basic, and they need to be upgraded. They need to be taken care of. Kids need a clean, well-stocked place to go to. And I also got a lot out of Brian's email, the WTA's email, and the document that he went over tonight. I think this sort of sums up. It is our hope that this document is a springboard into further constructive dialogue to make Willits Unified School District a supportive, collaborative, and successful place to educate. So, thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Diane?
Thank you, Robert. I went to Brookside's first assembly of the year in 2 years. It was a visiting author, and she had spent 20 years in Alaska, and the Alaskan Native people talk their stories, but is never written down. And so she wrote books that are similar to their myths. And it was really nice, and the kids were there. I saw the first grade kids coming in, but was also amazing was snack was going on at the same time. Those kids were so they were quiet coming in, but that wasn't it. They were getting their stuff and going, and still the audience was the kids were watching the speaker and everything she had to do. It was amazing, and the janitor helped. The principal was there, aides were there helping everything go. It was amazing. And then in that evening was open house, and I saw most of the classrooms. I think I missed one, but it was nice to see all the teachers had student work up, and their journals were there. It was nice to see the kids pointing to the stories that they liked, and even the TK classrooms had their writing up. It was just, I was impressed. They put little words down that they could do. It was just what you wanted again. It was nice to be back talking that, and in fact running into former students of mine as well that are now parents saying, that's my third grade teacher, and you're going, you know, I'm retired. But that was really nice. But my other thing is this week is for this last Wednesday, but it's also, to me, it's the whole month. It's the day of the student, day of the teacher. And I would like to think back my amazing people that have crossed my path as educators during my many years in school. From Mrs. Crenshaw, my home ec teacher, and doing cookies and tomatoes. She brought all her tomatoes from her garden, and the things you can make out of tomatoes besides sauce and canning and all that. But she also did teaching me how to do jelly. I love my pomegranate jelly that I make. And Mr. Garrett, who was my 5th grade math teacher, and he taught fractions, and we did fractions from end of January till June on adding, subtracting, multiplying, and division. That's all we did. But he told us this would help us in algebra, and he was right. It was amazing. And I would like to thank all of the, here in Willits, my colleagues from kindergarten and third grade and fourth grade, and along with the students through my 38 years, and all the things they made by making learning interesting, fun, and memorable. And I am forever grateful. And I would like to cheer all of you, all the teachers, that have chosen this difficult job of teaching, past, present, and future. And you change lives for the better, mine included, all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to keep mine short. But this has been, up to now anyways, has been a wonderful board meeting. We started out with the retirees and then the accomplishments of our children. It kind of went together. The hard work, the life spent, and my goodness, the results. And that's what keeps all of us going in this business. I'd also like to exhort all of you to continue on. I was talking to an educator just the other day, and they said, yes, the 100 days of May. Because for educators, May is when you're wrapping all those things up, you're testing, you're doing this, you're making orders. People are losing their patience. Everybody has been working hard together, but everyone is also growing a bit tired, and the patience is a little less than at the beginning of the year. But we all work through it. I'm subbing over at an elementary school in Ukiah, and it's a long term, so I'm closing with everybody else, but it just reminds me how much there is during this month. And it's a lot of work, and it's kind of like the end of the marathon, and you just got to make those last 3 miles, and just keep up the good work and hang in there, and we'll make it through. We'll make it through. So thank you. That's it. Superintendent's comments.
Okay, I will make these as brief as I possibly can. Start off with our facilities. Our facilities crew are gearing up for the summer. List of items needing attention is long, and they'll work hard to ensure to address those concerns, and some that were shared this evening as well. We have our summer programs are enrolling at all sites except for Sherwood. Sherwood students are welcome to join our programs at the appropriate grade level school in town. In also talking, we are planning some summer curriculum work for our teachers, and have had that on the books, and we're kind of tying those plans up. It looks like it'll be the last week of July that we'll be able to hopefully engage some staff to come in and do some work on identifying essential standards at grade levels and the success criteria if we can get to that level. But mostly we want to train in that process so that can continue through the year, because it's not something that would happen to the level of depth that we know that our teachers have a desire to do within that time period. That work will be working with MCOE to support, so we will have folks close by that we can call in and support. I haven't talked with Nikki, but I think that we could probably cost out the idea of having some additional time to work directly with curriculum as well. I don't see that being a barrier at all at this point. For our fiscal services, the May revise will be released later this week. We're anticipating on Friday at noon, is what I'm hearing at this point. So the legislature, there has been, I've heard probably 10 different ideas of what might be in this. So let's buckle up and hold on. I think it's all going to be good news. It's just a matter of how many strings are attached to the funding that they provide. So we're hoping, and what we've been advocating for is let us make local decisions, because as we've heard tonight, we have local needs that we need to address. And so that's really what we're pushing for as superintendents at the state level as well. In academic services, we did have our LCAP educational partners meeting on Tuesday. While not well attended, it was a really good meeting with I had 2 parents that showed up. We had a wonderful conversation, generated some really good ideas from that. And so it was nice to just have that focus time with 2 parents. We spent an hour together talking about the process and also just generating some ideas and getting feedback. Fortunately, it really fits in well with the other pieces of feedback that we've gotten. So it sounds like this will all incorporate quite well into the LCAP, and I look forward to being able to bring that forward with some significant revisions, I think. Maybe not in the goals necessarily, but in the actions and services that we're providing and what that looks like. Let's see, we've just finished on April 29th, we finished our federal program monitoring. That took a lot of time from me and from Nikki to respond to I think we uploaded, they told us in the end, we linked like 300 and some odd documents, and each one of those had to be researched and applied in the right way. So it's just hours and hours of work that went into that. We have a 16-page report that we're working through to ensure compliance with the federal mandates around programs for low-income students, professional growth, English learners, and program enrichment. The majority of findings were around the English Learner Program, and there were the work there really needs support at a district level in the future. As far as progress on our LCAP, I was taking notes tonight from the WTA report. Dan, I'd like to connect with you too from the CSEA side to see what input as we're developing the LCAP is needed as well. I think a lot of the things that were mentioned tonight are things that were already kind of in my head from other conversations that we've had. So I look forward to being able to figure out a way to make that work, and a lot of that hinges on this May revise that we'll see coming out, but I think that we will have the funding to be able to do that in an ongoing sense is what I'm hearing at this point. So let's see. I did want to say that for last week, it wasn't all on the day of the teacher because the donut shop would have killed me, but I did take ones around to each of the sites for staff. They looked at me the first day when I came and I said I'd like 4 dozen. They're like, what?
You didn't call.
How many? You didn't call us ahead. I said, well, I'll be here tomorrow and I'll be here on Friday. So they had them ready the next couple of times. We are working on a plan that we'll bring forward in our June meeting for Universal TK. We're working with the county on that plan. I was able to attend Prom this past weekend, and that was a lovely event. So thank you to everyone who was involved in that. It really came off nice, and it was nice to see our kids having some fun. We were over at the Grange and just kids being kids and having a good time. And they were all very sharply dressed, so it was nice to see. And finally, I attended open houses at Blosser, Brookside, and Bechtel, and they were lovely events. I agree with Eugenie. It was really wonderful to see everyone there just engaging and having a good time. So it was nice to kind of feel like a normal school activity and celebrating kind of that normalcy in what has been a very abnormal time for us for a couple of years. And that's all the comments I have.
Okay, thank you. On to 12A, consent agenda. Do we have any public comment on item 12A, consent agenda? Not hearing any. Do I have a?
Oh, sorry.
No comment?
Is this where our public speech?
No, this is just on a specific portion, but that'll be coming up.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is approved. Approval of the 2022-23 Perkins application, 12B.
And so this just came in today. It's fairly routine. I have uploaded it as well, so if there's anyone online would like to take a look at it. This is just continuing our Perkins program, which helps our CTE programs out. It's about $19,000. So that's just an annual application that we have to make. And at this point, in talking with Mike, his idea is to try to focus in on an individual pathway each year through this grant so that we can make a significant purchase for them. So in this coming year, his hope is to focus in on our theater program. We need new curtains and new lights on the stage, so this won't cover either of those items, but it will make a significant impact towards the curtains is what we're hoping.
You know, the thing with the Perkins grant is you do a lot of things and you have to give a lot of information, but it's not for that much amount. Now, at one time it was decent, but not anymore. Okay. Any more discussion on this Perkins grant? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the Perkins 2022-23 Perkins grant application.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second. Okay.
Between the two of them.
I believe you were first, you beat her.
We'll wrestle.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approval, item C, approval of the 2022-23 CTE plan.
There we go. This does say June 22 through June 27, or July 22 through June 27. In talking with Mike, the problem with this, and the reason we bring this each year, is CTE funding is one of those things that goes up and down with the tide of just funding in the state and as the legislature sort of reaches out. So this is not greatly modified. We're looking at the same pathways that we've had. I am probably not going to do this justice, as I know Mike worked hard to get this done while not feeling well as well. But one thing that he did want to highlight, we may be able to work with the college to get a public service pathway as an additional pathway, working toward having public safety as sort of an elective or as a CTE pathway. Again, I don't have all the details. We're sort of still building this as we're moving forward, but the idea being that we have some exposure to what it's like to be in EMS or police or fire, those types of services that are so valuable to our community, and have that rooted here at the high school so that we can kind of get their interest early.
Great, thank you. Is there any public comment on the CTE plan? Not seeing any. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the CTE plan.
And a race for the second.
I'll jump up.
Okay, Paula?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I just have a question. This continues, though, to leave open spots in case something can come up, like the career kind of education we talked about?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is an ever-evolving document, and
Okay.
that's why I say it says through June 27th. It's really just, it's updated every year as a part of what we do, because there's no way we can look that far in the future right now with funding or anything else.
Oh, okay, perfect. I just needed to be sure.
But it's good to have a vision to.
It is.
Oh, yeah,
so
that's
is.
great.
Any other discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item D, approval of CSEA master agreement and salary schedule for July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2025.
So I just want to say a big thank you to CSEA. Their entire negotiating team made this a very positive process. We were able to get together and really just have some good conversation about what the unit needs are. We look forward to, as a district, to continuing to support the relationship in the future, and it is built into this agreement to really start looking at, have the option to look at these increases as we were uncertain what the budget was going to look like, but I agree that we need to make sure that we're continuing to work on the salary schedule and move forward there.
Thank you. Do we have any public input regarding item D, approval of CSEA master agreement salary schedule? Not hearing anyone. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the CSEA Master Agreement and Salary Schedule for July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025.
And a second.
I second.
Great. Any discussion?
From us?
Yes. Not hearing any. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Aye.
Are you opposed?
Yeah, definitely opposed.
Okay. I'm surprised you didn't have any questions that went along with that.
I asked him last time.
Okay.
I noticed nothing changed, so I
Okay,
figured.
so we have one nay. Okay, item E, approval of MOU with CSEA.
So this MOU provides the outline for our summer school compensation for CSEA employees. We modeled this off of the approved MOU that we've had with or the approved language that we had in our WTA agreement, as well as we had done last year. This lasts for this summer and next summer, and we think that it will make sure that our students have the best available people through the summer.
Thank you. Any public input in regards to the approval of the MOU with CSEA? Not hearing any. Do
Can I speak to that? I was
Oh, please, come on up.
So we have 2 members in our office that work their absolute tails off for us and are probably the reason this high school functions here. They are not a part of that contract. They did not receive an increase.
This is the MOU part.
Why is that?
I don't know. I can't speak to why.
Hmm.
Just speak to the fact that they did not receive it. And it created a lot of animosity at our office.
It's not just the secretarial staff.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve?
No, we have to make a motion first, don't we?
Yes. Yeah, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, discussion.
With respect to the comments Mr. Bowles brought up, can we investigate that and find out, did we have people fall through the cracks somehow?
I believe that was probably in reference to item C, actually.
That is correct.
So,
That's what you.
Item B, you mean, secretarial staff?
No.
no, I'm sorry, item C, item D rather, I'm sorry, the master agreement. The MOU is very specifically that we're looking at here is in,
For summer school.
is for summer school. So
Yes,
it's a very
for
short
summer.
MOU that does actually include our secretarial staff.
It does.
Okay,
That
so
is correct. I agree.
regarding the MOU, that's the agenda item on the table right now. Any discussion regarding the MOU? Yes.
Yes, I noticed that the custodial staff is not included at all for the $100 day extra stipend. And I think that that's absolutely atrocious. I explained before, and I'll explain it publicly now, the custodial staff every single year works separately on summer school classrooms and issues. And that is in addition to all of the chores that they do during the summer. And yet, they're not on here at all. Secretaries are doing a few days extra. I would imagine, the secretary I spoke with said, oh, they do a few days extra because it has to do with attendance and keeping things up and making sure orders go through, and she had one other issue, I don't remember. But anyway, it seems reasonable. They'll pull a few days, and I think whoever is involved in our summer school program should be additionally compensated, at least for these 2 years. I appreciate that the salaries have improved for that particular portion of our district program, but I really do find it absolutely horrible that a group of people who have every year commented that they are not receiving adequate time to do whatever they need to do, or they are blamed for not completing the responsibilities that they should complete, because of a summer program. And this year, it won't be at just one school or two schools, it'll be at all but one school. I really do think that it's wrong that they are not included, and consequently, I just find that terrible and can't vote yes.
Thank you. Any more discussion?
I just think that anybody that's working specifically for the summer school programs, or anybody that's impacted by the summer school programs in terms of extra duty or extra work, needs to be appropriately compensated. Beyond that, that's just that simple.
Okay, more
That's a
discussion.
short way to say that, thanks. I'm gonna take lessons.
No more discussion? Okay, we have a.
Oh, over there. That's public.
We already passed public, but Dan,
Okay.
you are a big part of this. Come on up.
We had discussed that topic during talking about this MOU, and it was, the district's position that anybody who is already in contracted hours to work is at that point not considered a summer employee or a summer hire or a summer program employee. We did approach that issue about that, and those are the answers we got based on. That's why even if I have to go fix a room that deals with it, that gets damaged, I don't get the compensation. The secretaries that are working over, if there's any overlap between the two, they're gonna get compensation for the overlap time if they're doing any of those duties. But the 12-month employees, they're considered by the district as 12-month, and they're working whether it's there or anywhere, so that was why that was excluded, is the way I was explained.
Thank you for that information. Thank you for that information. Okay. Any more discussion on the board before we get a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
All those opposed?
No.
Okay. Did you get that, Cal? Okay. Item F, approval of Measure I, Oversight Committee 2022 Annual Report.
So I uploaded the annual report. I had sent you a draft. There was really only one change from the draft, and thank you, Jeannie, for catching that on the list of members. We added in Sabrina Rodriguez into that list. But the report overall just reviewed the expenditures. Our audit has said that we have expended appropriately and our performance is what is expected. So it's a performance audit and a fiscal audit. Both sides passed that. You know, we pass with flying colors because our business office does a great job with maintaining all of those records, as does our maintenance department and all of the pieces that go into the bid and the contracts and all those pieces that have to come up. At this point, the decision, the summary of that is that the bond is being expended within the specifications of the law and as approved by the voters.
Thank you. And Jeannie and I did get a chance to attend that meeting. So, any public input on item I? Approval of Measure I Oversight Committee. No public input. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we, on Measure I, Oversight Committee Annual Report.
Thank you, Diane.
I'll
Do I
second.
have a second? Okay. And any discussion?
Yes.
Please.
Just a couple things. One is there a balance left unspent out of the last bond proceeds?
Currently, we have, in anticipation of the Glosser alarm, we have just used the rest of the proceeds. We have assigned it there with the hope that that comes in significantly less and that we will still have a balance at that point. I would suggest that be reported on at that, once we have a bid for that. Right now, we're waiting on DSA approval for that project to be able to go out to bid and move forward. So.
Okay.
When I went to the bond meeting the other day, after receiving the information regarding the poor state of the bathrooms in the district, that I've asked that that be a priority in our next draw, that we evaluate every bathroom in the district and make sure that it's decent, because that's really important.
That next draw is coming up in 2024.
I know, but we could do something in the meantime, but hopefully when we evaluate how we're gonna spend that money in 2024, that we look at that as a priority.
And as a part of our windows project for Brookside, we do have some bathroom work that will happen there. It's still not going to address all of the issues, I know,
Right.
but it does start that process at least, so there's some improvements.
Is that over by room 9?
Uh,
The
I-
one corner?
I believe that's the bathroom that
Yeah,
we're looking
it's
at.
the constantly problematic bathroom I just wanted to, okay.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Okay, item G, approval of plaque for Paul Ubelhart? Ubelhart.
So,
Ubelhart.
we had discussed this last month, and I just brought it back for further discussion and possible action today. I do not have information on the type of plaque or location, but if approved, I could bring that back, and, you know, the board could approve that before it's placed. But at this point, it would just be approving moving forward in the process as per our board policy.
Great. Any public comment on this plaque for Paul Ubelhart?
Good idea. He was a great principal. I
Good
remember
idea.
him as a child.
Okay. Any other public comment? Not hearing any. Do I have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve that plaque.
Do I have a second?
Absolutely.
I think Diane beat you on that one.
I'll give it to you.
Any discussion?
I just want to say, I would sort of like to know how much it's gonna cost. Are we looking at $100 or $1,000 somewhere? I don't know, so.
Sure, and that will be part of, I just wanted to get board approval to be able to move forward with that. So, that would be before it was ordered and be approved.
Okay, good.
Any more discussion?
I think it might consider being put at Bethel Road. Just so that you're not gonna be confused, maybe that'll help you to decide the size, et cetera.
I know that Paul had a long career here with Willits Unified. He was a principal over at Becker Grove. Had an interesting nickname at the time, I won't go into that. Most of us probably
And
are.
Mill Creek.
Pardon?
And Mill Creek. He was the principal of Mill Creek School.
And once he retired from here, he served on the board at Mendocino College for a long time, just up until just a couple of years ago. So Paul was dedicated to education and stayed that way throughout his entire life.
Good for him. Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay. Now, item H, acknowledgement of board policy revisions, first readings.
So we had a whole variety of policies. It's probably quite a lot. I know Rochelle had been working hard on those. Of those, the one of the most concern as far as district business and changes to policy, I think, would be around our the physical education policy that was brought forward. This policy was brought not because there's been an update, but because of the federal program monitoring that we were involved with, that we needed to add in some specific language there. One is non-discrimination language, which is absolutely fine. The other piece is just changing, and interestingly, through this process, we found that I checked probably 40 other districts for this same policy. They all had the same policy we did, yet the state said, nope, this is not the right policy. It says that the superintendent can grant exemptions, and the law actually says that it has to be the board or the county superintendent who would grant those exemptions. And so this would make that change to reflect that law as is required for the federal program monitoring process.
Okay. Okay. Any
To
more?
insert county superintendent, just insert that as opposed
And
to
add in
leaving
the
it?
board as well.
And add the board?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And that's specific to the physical education policy.
That is
Right.
correct, yes. The rest of the policies mostly we're just changing the small pieces here and there. It was just, having to go through all of those and read all those papers, et cetera.
Can you restate what you said about PE?
Oh, yes, the physical education policy, needs to be updated to be, number one, make sure that it has all of the, areas of non-discrimination that need to be listed in the policy. And then secondly, there's exemptions. Currently, we haven't had the policy of granting exemptions, though I found out through this process that we, do actually have to have this process. The law says that, all students will take 4 years of PE in high school. And after those 2 years, when they take the physical fitness test and are able to step out of that they're, we have to grant a formal exemption for those last 2 years. And that process will be a new process driven by this board policy. Thank you.
Okay.
More local control.
Any further discussion on these board policies first readings? Not hearing any. Let's go to item J, discussion regarding the hiring process for assistant superintendent. We already had some public comment on that. Is there anyone else that would like to comment on this from our public?
The hiring process or the position itself?
Process.
Hello?
Yeah, but if there's an position, do you wanna?
How's it working? Shoot.
No,
Now,
I'm sorry, we didn't
excuse
hear
me,
you.
let me back up a little bit, if you just pardon me one moment. We're skipping item I, discussion about trimester versus semester, because one of the individuals that we wanted here, our high school principal, Mr. Colvig, was not available for this evening, so we're gonna continue the discussion at the next board meeting. So, I apologize for not explaining that. Now, back to the hiring process for the assistant superintendent. This is just the process that we're talking about. Any public input, further public input? We've already had some.
Can you clarify how we adopted the concept of an assistant superintendent?
We have adopted the job description. And so my hope would be to incorporate the feedback that we've received and be able to bring all of these items forward with our LCAP that will reflect many of these concerns that have been shared as well. The idea behind the assistant superintendent position is that we do have the extended learning opportunities program that we have coming on board that will require a good bit of time in coordination and support to at least initially to get going so that our students can have more opportunities outside of the learning that's happening during the day as well. The goal being that students have up to a 9-hour day available kindergarten or TK through 6th grade. And included in some of those would be tutoring, many of the opportunities that students really need, engaging community partners to come in and work as well. We're also looking at, in response to things that I heard last time, we are looking at identifying in the LCAP additional bilingual aides, an additional PE teacher in addition to the position that we already have available at this point, so that we would have a credentialed PE teacher at each of Brookside and Blosser, working with the aides that are currently there as well. We think that would provide that scheduling flexibility to make sure that we have the prep coverage that has been needed there as well as providing our students a really well-rounded experience in physical education. We are also, as we're waiting for the details on the state budget, is how far down that list of things can we go. One of the things that I have heard is that there will be a special set aside also for the specific support of art and music. And if that proposal moves forward, then we would be able to provide additional art and music support hard to lay all of these things forward at this point, but they are all our priorities, and I would like to get them into our LCAP as best as we possibly can, depending on what we're funded on in the actual state budget, but basing that also off of what we see for our May revise. So I'm looking for a piece of paper I had here. Too much paper today. As far as the suggested funding that I would put forward at this point, about 41% would come from the Extended Learning Opportunities program. Some would come from Title I because there would be some Title I support that would be provided. And that's similar to an amount that has been set aside from the Title I program for, traditionally it's been the superintendent, but that's not an allowable expense necessarily under Title I. Some would be our supplemental and concentration LCAP for specifically targeting our English learners. Some would be the unrestricted general fund for about 15%, and I'm sorry, the LCAP would be about 20%, Title I about 24%. So at this point, the rationale and the process in this would be that we really need someone there that can monitor the programs, particularly for our English learners and for our English or our Extended Learning Opportunities program. The federal program monitoring that we had really showed that there's a deficit there that we're not currently addressing for the students. That support would then be able to drive support for our teachers who desperately need that support as well. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do these other things that were suggested. I think they're great ideas, and I think given what I've heard, that we'll be able to be able to move forward with many of those suggestions based off of the budget scenarios that I've seen put forward. I think that this position will not just benefit administration, and I know that that's it sounds very self-serving coming from a superintendent position, asking that about an assistant superintendent. The intent is to have someone who can truly provide that day-to-day support in classrooms as well, out at sites. This position won't be at an office necessarily every day. They'll be out at sites every day would be my expectation of the position as a switch.
Yeah. Just one quick question before I forget to ask. If the resources are not available, or we want to put resources other places, would we be able to reduce that position to a coordinator's position as opposed to an assistant superintendent? I know in many districts they have coordinators that'll take care of like all the Fed monies and with all the strings and so forth, and support the ELD program. But as opposed to the assistant superintendent, it's a coordinator position.
It's definitely possible. I mean, it's at the board's pleasure, obviously, for how that moves forward with the budget scenarios and whatnot. So we could look at that scenario as well. We don't currently have a salary schedule for a coordinator, so that's the only, we would have to take kind of a guess based off of director level or something like that in our current salary.
Would you like further comments, please?
Think outside the box financially. What you're describing is what we often do at TOSIS, right? You could almost buy 2 TOSIS, probably 2 plus some aides for the cost of the assistant superintendent. There is a real need. We know, I think the board knows we're being audited. We talked about that earlier. And there's a big need for the ELD position. My recommendation is we find and feel the need for the ELD specifically, because that makes sense for the next 2 years. That will also take care of that funding, and then that position, when it's fixed, will then go away, as will the funding. If you want people to oversee all these programs, it might make a lot more sense to make sure that you can fill the programs before you hire somebody to oversee something we don't have people filling those positions for. Every single thing on that list is absolutely fantastic. 100% support in everything Joe mentioned today. The more you put a management position above that, the less money goes to our students, period. We want more people face-to-face with our kids, period. We don't need extra people telling us how to do it. We want more people interacting with our children. Superintendent position is important at the district. The assistant superintendent position is an absolute waste of finances and the wrong direction for this district to go.
I think
Can I
that's
jump
why.
in from Zero Borough, please?
Just real quick, just in response, that's why I was thinking of coordinator, because coordinator just makes a little bit more than a teacher. Not much, but anyways. Maria, were you first?
Okay, I just want to remind the board that we have been working at a English learner program in the district for as long as I've been here. We have not had a coordinated program district-wide, when we went into the pandemic, we had 3 plans that we had to come up with district-wide that we came up with within a month, maybe a couple of months. We haven't had a Title III plan, which is, because we don't really have a coordinated program, but we haven't had a Title III plan for at least 10 years. That's not, the program needs to be coordinated district-wide. It needs to be designed, if you will, with, research-based strategies and people in positions where it's the most effective to do that. I don't, just that in itself, in this federal program monitoring, had the most findings of all the programs. And that's just one of the programs. We have not had a coordinated Title I program district-wide, although we do better at that at each site, because it can be sort of pieced together. But part of our coordinating the literacy all really should be under the Title I program, and it should be coordinated district-wide. We saw this year that administrators were given duties and duties that they had to carry out that really took them out of administration because it was so difficult to do several pieces of, we had vice principals that were principals at another site, and all of that is a lot of, it's just too much to do to be effective at what administrators do, which is support teachers and the rest of our staff. I mean, that's really what you do. You support them. And just, you need to know that we don't have coordinated programs district-wide. And we have driven administrators out of administration because of the amount of duties and the amount of work that we have put on them. We may not have the numbers of students, but we have the scope of work that needs to be done.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Maria.
Maria.
I believe there was someone from our Zoom that had a question.
Hi, Brandon Ludwig here, and I'm sorry, Maria's comments didn't come through very well on the microphone, just in case I missed something that she had said. But I wanted to first off thank Joe for recognizing the need for a second PE teacher at elementary school sites. I've been advocating that for a very long time, and I hope that is something that is seen through for the sake of our elementary school teachers and students that need physical education services. And I would also like to say that, the assistant superintendent position as it's being presented right now sounds very focused, to the point that it can. I'd like to echo Mr. Chavez's comments, that it does seem like a coordinator could take on some of those duties. In fact, I know that we do have coordinators in our after-school programs, Tina's family at BGMS, and the name of the Blosser coordinator escapes me for after-school programs, but they are trying to extend the EOT program already and are working hard on that. So, you know, there's people eager in this district to do this work. Coordinating it district-wide sounds good, but again, isn't in our best financial interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Brandon.
I just wanted to remind you, I was here at the last board meeting or the board meeting before, because there's been a few in between. I just want to remind you of what we've lost over the last 2 years. 2 years prior, we lost our 2 ELD positions. So we had one at a full-time at Brookside and a full-time at Blosser. And since then, we've been lacking in the classroom of the support that we need to successfully support our students. And so I would have to say I liked the idea of coordinator, ELD coordinator that could do supporting the teachers and having ELD in the classroom successfully, and being able to reach those other areas to support our students at a coordination level. I agree. I think that our students need more from us, and meeting our students at where they are and interacting with them, and putting them into the classrooms with the teachers to support the teachers instead of the above management. So we lost a lot losing our ELD full-time teachers, and I wish we could go back to that. It's been a struggle as a teacher for ELD, and who suffers? It's not the teacher. We do need it's our students, and they've suffered this year.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
I got a comment.
I have a comment.
You'll be next.
I'll be quick.
Okay, thanks.
As IT, I see a lot of classrooms and stuff. And it would be nice if we had all the positions filled that we, not just teachers, but aides and everything else. But I don't feel stonewalling or gatekeeping one position isn't going to automatically fill up all the other positions. The entire nation is like, I forgot the number, but there's a lot of teachers in need. And it's not just Willits Unified that's suffering. So I feel denying this position isn't going to magically make the other positions just fill up. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. It is difficult to fill these positions like never before everywhere. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to Zoom. Who was that?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just gonna echo some of the things that Brian had said about hiring the assistant superintendent. I currently work as an aide at Sherwood, and I see a real need that there could be there could be an aide for each classroom there instead of one aide that's split between 2 classrooms for part of the day and then just one aide for the younger children. It seems like to me that financially that money could be better spent. Hearing what Mr. Chavez said about a coordinator, maybe better than just the assistant superintendent. I think it would benefit the students more to have like more face-to-face interaction, and maybe like adding more reading specialists to each campus so we could like bring up our reading scores. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I cannot read your name. I apologize. What's your name?
Oh, it's okay. My name's Savannah.
Okay. Thank you, Savannah.
No problem.
Any other comments? And this is, oh, go ahead.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry, let me. Oh, hi, this is Sandy Lucier, and I've been teaching at Brookside for 17 years now, and I just wanted to highlight something that WTA brought up in the bullet points, and it was just that it's really critical to increase student success in reading, to teach reading in small groups, and I know that to do that, my dream is to really increase aid time and have that protected aid time in classrooms, be a really protected time in classrooms, and aides need more training, and of course it was touched on more pay. So I just want to really highlight that it is critical to really get small group reading back, K through 5, in my opinion, to really see, that's where we see the progress is in those small groups, and to go back to daily small group reading groups in addition to the students who are not at grade level would also get an additional intervention group on top of it. So it's a double dose of reading daily. And I just want to really emphasize the importance of that, which is touched on the bullet points. And so, keep that in mind. That really affects each student, directly. And again, what was also touched on, that when we lost our ELD teacher a couple of years back, that really has affected our ELD students. And so having that teacher that came in and helped us, also pulled out small groups for ELD at Brookside, and losing that, it's really been hard for teachers to get, to really see that progress with our ELD kids like we used to see. And then, anyway, that's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, any other public comment?
I just have a text from 2 teachers that they asked me to read. They couldn't be here tonight. Combined some things, so bear with me. This is from Relania Smith and Carrie Bauer. They apologize for not being able to be here tonight. But they'd like to remind the board that they both answered the district survey on employee satisfaction and school needs. In that survey, they both gave specific input on the school's needs. They are hoping that the board and the administration will look at their surveys, along with any other surveys from faculty not here to speak tonight. They completed the survey before learning that Mr. Aldridge is not returning as superintendent, and they hope the next superintendent hired has the same qualities of professionalism and respect of faculty and staff that Joe brought back to the district.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any other public comments?
I do, but
Go ahead.
that's separate then, because that was just on that topic, so now I have more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that what you mean?
We're still on this topic. We have.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, wait, now we're moving to public comments.
Oh, I'm sorry. Public comments as it pertains to the, this agenda item.
This agenda item.
Yeah, trust requirement.
Yeah, okay.
So when I hear your plan for all these, the umbrella of this assistant superintendent, what their job description will do, what I hear is, where's the teacher below? So if there's a person who's overseeing an art and music, is that person delivering the art and music, or is that now I'm coordinating this program, I'm gonna deliver it to you, teacher, and here's another thing on your plate that you need to do? So that's concerning to me as a teacher, because my job, my number one job is to make sure when you leave 2nd grade, you are reading. That is what I focus on, that is my driving force every day. So when I have more things to do, that pulls away time from those things. So it's important to me that we think about it as, we can't continue to load onto our teachers more things. I mean, I understand that we want to provide this huge menu to our students. Of course, we all want that. But if we have this position up here that's not delivering right here into the classroom in a real person, it's another program that's going to go in my closet because I don't have the time. This is not a priority to me when getting you to read is my priority. So I really want us to think about that as we're funding money into positions. And I understand, it's not like I'm against leadership. Leadership is important. It's important to have people helping us and building us. But when we think about the crux of it and the moment that we're delivering this to a student, what does that look like? Who's delivering it? How is that being delivered? Is it the most bang for our buck? Are we being conscious about making sure that we are providing quality instead of, oh yeah, we do this, it's this tiny little piece of the pie and it's not really developed, but here it is. So I really caution us in bringing in this other position and thinking about how we can really serve students in a real way.
So you're looking.
With who?
So you're looking for support that takes things off your plate.
Well, I would
Adds
be
it
more than
your
happy to
plate.
work alongside that person,
Sure.
with that person, but I can't have another program delivered to me in a box that says, I want you to teach this now.
Yeah.
Find a way to work this into your lessons.
And no crap.
And at the same time, read, which is that is my priority. And I'm telling you, if it's another thing delivered in a box, it's going in the closet, and that's a waste of money.
Well, I appreciate your
So I
effort.
think we really need to consider how and what, who, and how is this gonna be delivered to our students? Is that a coordinator position? I don't know. I mean, this is what you guys work out. This is why you're in this position. But I want us to really think about that. And think about the person, and what is that person doing? And how is that person delivering it to our students? And it cannot be another box program on the shelf in a teacher classroom. So please, write it down.
Thank you very much. Okay, any other public comments? Not hearing any, let's take it to the board.
I'm hearing bilingual, really am. And I know that we're getting funding through the state on, bilingual languages and immersion classrooms. And at the high school, I know that they can get a certificate for being two languages. And that's the first thing that colleges look for, and also other companies, if you're speaking in both. And I think that's where their funding's coming through from the state right now. So this person needs to be like an EL director maybe, and I would like to make sure that when they become that person, that they also do the assessments. First, they need to test all the kids and see the progress and get that, because we've had problems with giving people money to be a math person or a reading person, and we never see the documents from them that said what happened.
And that's actually a requirement with our, the federal program monitoring that we've just been through is to document the assessments of our ELs.
And then have we done a survey what teachers want?
Yes, I actually forgot to mention that as part of my comments. I do have the survey results here, that's been summarized, so.
All right, we might have to do that again. All right.
Any other thoughts on the table?
You want it from here?
Yes, that's where we're at.
As we know. Okay, this has been a big deal. I can't help it. It is ever so close to my heart. And what is most important to me is, I'm repeating myself, but if we're writing things down, get your pen up, you know? But I don't have an issue with an ELL coordinator, particularly. I've never been a proponent of TOSAs, and so if that's now what a TOSA can take care of, a lot of the paperwork, that's fine for me. I do absolutely, however, expect that they are in a classroom, not necessarily the TOSA, but at least a couple of teachers who will do a type of push-in coordinated with the classroom teacher, okay? Because that's the only way you're gonna get them connected, and that's the only way those kids are gonna benefit. And I don't say those kids like they're a separate cluster, okay? Also, what is super important to me is that there is a district coordinated program, and someone who has been up and down that path already. It's really awful in my mind to have people who say they know things that in reality they don't, and it's too difficult for them to accept outside information. So what is important the most to me is that we have a specific person taking care of ELL, English Language Learners, needs. And we need to remember every once in a while, Willits diverses itself a touch, and you get more than just Spanish or English to learn. The skills are identical. It's just not quite as easy, and I say that from experience, as when you can throw in a few words in Spanish as opposed to needing Cambodian or some other language that you don't happen to have a repertoire for. My worry about a coordinator or anything else that has more than one responsibility, specific responsibility, has nothing to do with the money. I've already told you, I believe there's plenty of it there. What concerns me is that you get to be the sub today. Well, no, not if they're sitting in the district office. That's fortunate. But they do get pulled away to take care of the government's requirements for this, or the state's requirements for that, or something else, and their job as the English language learner doesn't stay their job. It begins being a part of it. And when a quick fix is faster and easier than the long haul, you can't help but go for the quick first. I mean, you always do whatever you can get done, and then you go back to what is really important. And that's my concern with a position that umbrellas things, okay? And then I can't stress enough, you need teachers who know how to teach a language, and they need it for reading. You can read anything you want. If you don't comprehend it, you're not reading. And if you don't have that language development behind you to understand what you're reading, when I first learned Spanish, I read Spanish books better than anybody in my cluster, and the cluster I was studying with. The cluster I studied with, half of them were native speakers. I wasn't, but I could read better than they could because I had outstanding phonics. Didn't have proper inflections all the time and had zero comprehension. I passed all their little Dibbles types tests. I was top of my cluster. But you know, I knew zero. That's not reading. And so if somebody would have taught me vocabulary, etc., first, then hey, I could read whatever there was and score worthwhile. You know, that's what we make a mistake with a lot of our EL learners now. They read just fine. Do they know what they're reading? Absolutely not. Have they got a general idea? Well, maybe, but, and that's why I so understand it goes first teacher and then somebody to make sure it all makes sense, you know. Well, not even first, together they need to go into this deal. Okay, I'll set it up for the next 5 minutes.
Any other board comments?
Yeah. So part of the hang-up appears to be the label, you know, superintendent, assistant superintendent. So I have a couple comments there. Number one is, Joe, you're leaving. I know we had a discussion about this after the last board meeting, and I told you I would support this. But that was before you announced that you were leaving. I'm, as pretty much everybody here knows, I'm a strong supporter of the people that come in here. In other words, if you were going to stay here as superintendent, I would argue that you should be the one that's selecting that assistant superintendent, assuming the board approved that. You're leaving. So I can't support that anymore. Clearly, we have an issue or a question of whether or not it's the best bang for our buck, if you will. A coordinator position, for example, what Robert has suggested, might be a better way to look at this. And partly it's because there is a concern that 2 years down the road, again, you've suggested this being a 2 to 3 year program, a position. 2 to 3 years down the road, we would be potentially releasing that individual or finding another position for that individual, or who knows, maybe they would step into the superintendent position when the next superintendent decides to leave. But all this, and again, I'm supportive of that from that perspective because I like depth, and I like to be able to know that if our superintendent had to leave because of a medical condition but planned on coming back, we had somebody to fill those shoes, somebody we could bump up. So I like the idea of an assistant superintendent, just like an assistant principal. I like you've also made mention that there are a number of things that you'd like this person to do. Like, for example, the Extended Learning Opportunities grants that we're all gonna have to deal with next year. That makes perfect sense to me for part of this person's job. But one of the things that keeps coming up and keeps frustrating me is this discussion we continue to have over and over and over again about EL. We all know that we are extremely weak there, and we got far weaker thanks to budget constraints 2 years ago, and we have not made strides to correct that. That I find frustrating across the board. Now, realistically, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Do we need a coordinator or an assistant superintendent to find those people to fill those EL positions? Or do we need to find those EL positions and then put them in place, and then if they don't have the proper support, then find an administrator to provide that extra support that those people need, along with that Extended Learning Opportunities grant. So from my perspective at this stage, I would table this. I would take a look at it from a coordinator's perspective, like what Robert suggested, and I would put this firmly in the hands of our next superintendent. With respect to the ELD program, I don't understand why we haven't stepped outside of our little box here and looked at a successful ELD program somewhere else and said, clearly that's working for you guys, a similar size school, similar demographic, and go, let's try and duplicate that, at least as a starting point for us. Hire those people, put them in those roles, and start moving forward. That's what I got.
So I just wanted to say that I really appreciate the staff that has spoken today, and it gives me a lot to ponder on, and I'm going to ponder, so thanks.
So at this point, correct me if this isn't really an action item. I think this is direction towards Joe, but it sounds like at this point we need to table this and think about it more in regards to what direction we want to go, with the emphasis on focusing on ELD improvement. And no matter how we, whatever direction or how this is slanted, it needs to get our ELD nailed down, supported in the classroom, supported on each site, whether it's coordinator and teachers coming in together, like Paula mentioned, working together. But we do need a plan. I've worked in a number of districts, and I've worked with a lot of ELD plans, and I even created a rubric to determine. The rubric was a 4-point rubric because we were evaluating the schools on their ELD programs and their effectiveness. So I've had a lot of experience with that, but I think there's a lot more discussion that needs to happen with the ELD program here. So, okay, I think that's clear as mud.
Go for that mud.
Okay, any other discussion?
Since we're going to get past the acknowledgement of or the hiring process of assistant superintendent, since we're on the subject of ELD programs, we put together a committee of people to work towards a literacy program for K3 and K5. Can we not do something similar for the ELD program and get this launched? Because it's been way too long, and we, for want of a better way to put it, we seem to be looking at one another and going, maybe they'll take care of it, maybe they'll do it, but nothing seems to be getting done, and we are way behind the 8 ball on making this happen.
I will speak, and I know it's a little bit out of turn, Brown Act, but I would be happy to represent WTA and find at least 2 to 3 members for a committee and to work with a board member or 2. Absolutely. And I think we can find that by the end of next week.
I'd be happy to work towards it as well. However, it is not my wheelhouse. I would argue that Mr. Chavez or Ms. Nunez would be probably 2 ideal board members to work towards this and provide some direction. But again, I'll help any place I can.
I I'd be willing to help out on that, but maybe Joe, you could put something out there
Yeah.
or some process and so forth, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd be real willing to see.
Good idea.
And it includes all people, so it's not just teachers and board. I would absolutely recommend parents.
Yeah, because that would be a good
Parents and
plan.
some parents in the community that are directly affected by this. It'd be fantastic to have.
And are you thinking, oh, you're busy all the day, so it needs to be in the evening?
Later afternoon.
We were-
Okay, sometimes it's.
We were very successful in reaching out to anybody that wanted to participate in the literacy program that we put together. We did it largely by Zoom, and almost exclusively by Zoom. It allowed almost everybody to participate in ways that we couldn't have otherwise done on a schedule that made a lot of sense. So I would argue that utilize Zoom to the best of your ability as long as you got somebody to actually lead the charge, if you will, and keep the notes and keep things organized.
And so a committee would probably include an administrator type, a board or two type, a teacher or two type, and a paraprofessional or two type. Okay.
And
Could-
a parent.
Well, yeah, at least a parent, maybe two. Okay, that's good.
Again, I don't know enough about EL programs to be able to provide any real direction here. All I can say is that what we did with the literacy side of things is we opened that up to anybody that wanted to participate, that felt that they had anything pertinent to add to the discussion. If that works for the EL program, then I would argue clearly no voice is necessarily a bad voice, and the group can sift through all the stuff that comes through, and hopefully nothing but the best will filter to the top.
Can I ask you a question? Has there been specific recommendations made by this audit that came forward, other than like a person to oversee it, but like specific implementation recommendations?
Unfortunately, it wasn't that type of audit. It's
Okay.
it was more a compliance audit.
Okay.
So it's around, working within compliance to get to something that works for our students, for our teachers, for our families, all the way around. So that's sort of the translation that needs to happen there is to go, oh yes, we're compliant, but we also have a quality program.
I mean, because when I think about it as an educator, I think about our ELD framework, how am I being supported to implement that into my classroom? How can I get that help? Who do I go to get that help? So I think about those things quite often, actually.
And those are questions that need to get posed to that group.
To that group, right, exactly. I'm not posing that to you, but I'm throwing that out there, like, is the committee going to be sifting through these kinds of things to, I mean, this is not new, right? Just like you said, somebody else is doing this somewhere. We have done lots of ELD things before, we just kind of,
There's just mounds of information you
Yeah.
could get
Totally.
from CD. They just have, I mean, yeah, you could keep yourself warm by covering yourself with all of that.
yeah.
Well, and there's more than one plan that works.
Yes.
I mean,
But-
you know, there are.
But you also have to be cognitive of the requirements or the expectations that the state have of the program. We'll be going round and round in this because we don't have the programs that we don't meet the requirements of the state.
Okay.
And those are the things you get marked down
Sure.
from. So we gotta cover those bases. So you have a good idea?
I think so.
Okay, now we're to open comments. You can talk about
Me?
whatever you want, but look at the time.
Oh, I'm in a hurry. I know. Okay,
I
really
could
quick.
mean it.
No, I'll be quick.
No,
I'll
I'm
try to be
just
quick.
kidding.
A shout out to Shelby Dodd for helping our struggling readers at Blosser. She's been there since March, the end of March until now, and she's already seen growth, and it's huge. So that's a success. I wanted to just kind of piggyback on a few other topics. Having aides in the classroom to have groups in our classrooms. Right now, currently in Blosser, we have 30 minutes of an aide, 30 minutes all day. And so it'd be great to be able to have reading groups that follow up from the tier 1 that we're giving with our pullouts.
How do you use that 30-minute aid? Because that's not
It's during
much
math time, so my math scores are through the roof right now.
So
And-
are you able to pull small group for
Yes.
that 30 minutes?
Yes, so
And then
not
the aid?
really. Yes and no. So I teach my main lesson, and then the aid comes in at that time. I also have another push-in for my other students because we're doing full inclusion. And so I have a push-in for a few students that helps out with everybody too. So yes, I sort of do reading groups, but math groups. So it's like 3 kids with 1 aid, which is when they don't understand the concept when you're teaching it, then they could, slow it down a little bit and reteach the main concepts where the rest could move forward, right?
Thank you. I just wanted
So yeah, so
to
there's
peek into
3
your-
bodies in the three teachers in the room with 23 students.
Yeah,
We
that's
get a
good.
lot done
That's
in 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's why my math scores I'm very
Thank you.
excited. I want my reading scores to be the same. Also having a book room at Blosser, having those resources at our fingertips to walk in and pull that reading level that we need. I have a great library, classroom library, because I've been building it for 7 years. So they can get all reading levels in my classroom, but multiple of the same book. I did get a great amount. I got like 60 or 70 books with the extra $500, which was great. So I can I have access to some. So book room was an awesome idea we've been asking for the last 5 to 7 years for a book room at Blosser. We've been asking over and over. Having yard duties would be a great thing at Blosser. We have our aides running to do yard duty, pick up trash, all of the things from 11 to 1 o'clock. They are busy doing yard duty. And then literacy planning committee, I guess, is that continuing so that we can, I guess, share input and make a plan? I know the principals do work on this, and then we also have our curriculum coaches and then our reading specialists. But my thing is how are we giving input on when do we need to have our groups leveled? Every year when we start the year, it's August 20-something, and we're figuring out where our kids are in reading, and then it takes till October 1st.
You don't have a post-assessment?
We
at the
have
end of the year?
we do. We have it all.
You can't use that?
I'm not sure. We want accurate information, but Renaissance isn't always up and ready for September 1st. Sometimes it's stretched into October 1st.
I'm thinking about end of the year data to place for the fall.
That would be awesome to use that. We do not.
See,
All
that-
of those scores we do not use to place for reading groups. I'm
Well-
hoping that since we just got a reading specialist this year, things will be different than the years
Yeah, what
past.
would be great is that at the end of the year, you took all that data with you, and also take it to your card parties, where you divvy up who's going to get who and so forth and so on, so.
Yeah, in the past, it's been different than when we've had our specialists, so it's kind of jumbled on what we've done because we've used aides for pull-out groups, or we've done like the reading groups blast where teachers rotate students. So I'm hoping next year we will have all that information by the deadline, like September 1st. It's a go, like just jump and go. And so I think that was our struggle this year at Blosser is, we started making progress in March. So from March until now, we've made progress. Before that, except for the regular classroom instruction and building the 1 year growth, we didn't have progress from August to March.
You're talking about basically tier 2.
We had tier 2 in the classroom.
Pull-out programs.
The pull-out groups, there was no growth from pretty much, we had some growth, I should say, but not significant. That's probably all I need to say. The reading scores will show that. I'm hoping next year we can jump in and that all those reading specialists can meet. That brings me to my question, and then I'm pretty much.
I was going to say that part of the problem that you're addressing is because the person that was hired for that position wasn't utilized, maybe.
Hoping things will change next year.
Right.
So that brings me to my next question. I heard 6 positions are for reading next year. And I was confused, and I think there's 5, so I wanted to get clear. Okay, so we have 2 at Brookside reading specialists for next year, 1 curriculum coach at Brookside, and then we have 1 reading specialist at Blosser for next year and 1 curriculum coach at Brookside, or Blosser, I mean, sorry. So my concern is, after looking at the reading scores, we have at least, I guess I could say this, it's public knowledge, right? 40% of our students that are not reaching grade level for all grades, 3rd through 5th, as well, I could say that as well as Brookside. Second graders coming in, it's actually 40%, 39%, 40% students coming in to 3rd grade. And then 5th graders going out to Bechtel, 40%, maybe a little higher, 50? It's 40, 45.
I doubt it's even that good.
I think, well, I just looked at the score. Oh, that was from, I'm hoping there's a little more growth because I didn't get May's results. I just got March's. It's a lot. And so my concern is we only have 1 reading specialist at Blosser, and they're going to pull out groups, and we have 3 grades that are now needing to be 5 grades of knowledge from reading, and then we have Bechtel Grove. We're sending these students off. Is there reading support? I'm not at Bechtel Grove. Is there reading support at Bechtel Grove to help those struggling readers in 5th grade? Because what I've heard is when they get to the high school, which we're trying to help this in the beginning years, right? That we're still teaching reading, right? And we need them to be reading at least an 8th grade level by the time they get to 9th grade to be able to keep up. Our English teachers should be teaching 9th grade English and higher, and I think they're having to teach beginning reading to some. And we need more reading specialists. And the other thing is
The May revision that's coming out Friday may give us hopefully the surprises that we're looking for there. The state has decided very recently, through Tony Thurman's office, that K-3 education, K-3 literacy is now becoming a priority across the state. And the legislature apparently is looking toward throwing a lot of money in that direction. 2 years after we started looking at it, the point is now they're actually going to put their money where their mouth is. We've already allocated resources from a variety of different places to put the plan that we have in place with the coaches and the reading specialists that we have, independent of what the state's talking about doing in terms of additional funding. Hopefully that additional funding will provide us opportunities for still more reading specialists, still more aides, and so forth moving forward. How long that lasts, that's another question, but we should do everything we can to take advantage of that as long as we can.
I hope we could put an extra one for next year.
We still have to maintain our focus on the TK3 grade level because we don't want to let that start letting resources when we have to fix all of this. We do, and we do the best we can. But the thing is, once they get past 3rd grade, there's other things that we're trying to tackle, like their thought, I'm stupid. By then kids think I'm stupid, they don't try as. All I'm saying is as they get older, it's harder and harder. That's why if we nail them in that reading in K-3rd, if we can get them there, most of them, then when 4th grade comes, you have a larger percentage. And they already haven't given up, so to speak. And so, not that it can't be done, and not that we shouldn't put resources there, but that focus has to be at the lower grades. And unless they're special ed students, we need everybody on grade level. So what we really need to focus on are the assessments for TKK first. Are we knocking them down? Are we getting those big percentages down? Because if we're not, all you're doing is you're just moving that all up there. And like I said, the older they get, the more difficult it is to address their shortages. Plus there's more instead of 3 months behind, they're 6. Then they go higher, they're a year behind, they're 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
So it just behooves us to nail down those early grades.
And I think it's great. Keep what you have at Brookside. I'm saying we should add another one at Blossom.
Yeah. No, and I agree.
And pulling those reading groups every 30 minutes and taking it seriously, because
I agree.
all of the teachers take this so seriously, and we take ownership and pride in what we do, and all positions need to be held accountable.
That's awesome.
The last thing that I wanted to ask, I remember you saying about PE. Did you say about funding one PE position at Blosser or two?
So I said, that we would have a PE teacher,
Okay.
a credentialed teacher at both Blosser and Brookside,
Okay.
like one for each, and then one aide, like
Okay.
that we currently.
Okay,
do.
just
So-
checking, because
so
we
to
have
be what we
14
have, and
classes,
then-
and so I was just
Right,
trying
and
doing
the
that.
idea being that with those, that they could possibly pull two classes together at the same time with that supervision and.
Yeah, no, that would be great. That would fix our issue with kids not getting health education or physical education, along with fix our prep problem, because that has been very challenging for everyone. So I think that's it. I'm willing to help with any planning for building, reading, and so I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any more 30-minute comments?
I have a 30-second comment.
No, I can't.
My 30-second comment
I'm
is,
teasing you.
we want to build a book room at Blosser, so where's the money, how much is it, and when can we get started?
Sorry, hit it again.
We want to build that book room at Blosser. So it's a super valuable resource at Brookside. Jean uses it. I know Paula knows all about it and has probably used it herself. It is super important because you're meeting kids where they are at their independent reading level and pushing them on. So, how much money? When can we get started?
You got
That's what I want to
everyone
know.
ready?
So
We have a room that our aide uses for a pull-out group.
Great,
that
we got a room.
Yep, we could utilize that junk
And
room.
you don't have any level books already?
We have some. They're chapter books, grade level.
No, okay.
But we have some third graders that need that kindergarten or first grade.
And they
level,
should,
You know,
right?
we have fourth graders, like it's not just within those grades. We know this. This is not
Well,
new
there was a
information.
time when
Now, is
Blosser had
the-
those books.
The library isn't all tagged by
So
Renaissance.
you should
or-
come. I invite you. I will show you the book room. I
At
use
Brookside.
the book room like crazy. So if
Oh,
you
at
want to come
Brookside?
see the book room and understand what I'm talking about, what
When's a
it
good
looks
time?
like, and what it works, any day after school, come on by.
And I can show you what we have at Blosser.
And I can show you
Because
what we're
Blosser
talking about.
used to have stuff like that, just 6
It's
years
as
ago.
big as that
Yeah,
table
I mean, I
in
think
that
it's
corner.
That's
something that we
it.
can move
So in the
forward.
interest of time, is it okay if I help coordinate these two teachers and two board members after tonight's meeting?
Coordinate
I'll put the invite to all five and then.
There you go, we'll respond.
Yeah, thank you.
Because I may have a volunteer who set up Brookside, she's not dead.
Blosser,
She's
yeah.
retired, she can.
But there is a process to this. It
There
has, it
is,
has a
there
method.
truly is.
But
and
I
it
think we need
takes
to get
time.
started. We've been talking about this for a while. When Mark was here, we talked about it. We talked about him getting money for it. Like, it's time. Today's the day.
Another thing is now that COVID, hopefully, is, we know that we lost 2 years and the
Yes.
kids, those second graders, I couldn't believe how their scores were. But, you know, put volunteers that will be there every day and sit down with kids. I think we can do that.
Well, now we can have
Now we
volunteers
can
back
have
in the school.
volunteers,
So,
yeah.
I mean, if people want to come in, Jean comes in once a week, recruiting people that are in our classroom families is important, or in the community. You know, we have people that would come. But I just want to really nail down this book room thing and not talk about it anymore, but action. I think this is really important.
What does your school site council think about it?
Well, I'm not at Blosser, I'm actually at Brookside. I'm just
Right,
advocating
but-
for it.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh,
But
Now they talk a lot about the LCAP money,
Do we
so
have
I
the
don't
same
know
site
if that
council?
can be used for that.
it can.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I can speak to my site council,
You
site
might,
rep.
you
or
know,
site
their,
council rep.
their people have if they make that a part of their site plan, at the end of the year, when their little site plan has been evaluated, excuse me, then it comes up again, okay? And it should get started, even if it's tiny and you've already got the room, trusting, of course, that your administrator doesn't mind, it should start with that. And site council is a bigger push than we are in the sense that they allocate, and it doesn't have to be much money, but that it's a part of their school functioning, and it'll happen faster than
I can
us.
put that out there.
That's a
Ask
good
my
idea.
site council.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Are you done?
Yep, I'm done. Go sure.
It's 10:30. No, actually, this is one of the best meetings I've attended.
Yes.
Because we're talking about instruction, we're talking about children, this is like one of the best meetings I've attended. So I appreciate all your I tease you, but I'm teasing. Okay, items for the next regular board agenda.
There'll be plenty.
There will,
Yeah,
don't worry.
there's lots,
Okay.
I'll forget some of the plans if I start going down them, but we will have our LCAP and budget will be our, the big ones.
Well,
and how
that
we try
will
to-
be for us to discuss, right?
Correct, it's not the approval, it is the,
Oh,
is
okay, it's the
hearing on it.
additions or whatever.
And then we have,
Okay.
I think we chose June 20th was our second meeting that we'll have, that's the actual, approval of the budget and the LCAP.
Okay,
So-
because not all of it is prioritized, right? I read part of it and then realized that, I wonder whose priorities these are, because the list was not mine. And so I'm just, that's when we'll also discuss that part, right?
Well, if it goes into the LCAP, it should be an
It's a
action that
number one
we're,
priority
we are doing,
regardless.
yes,
Oh, okay,
as a
then
district.
that's
So that's the, because we're measured toward that,
Yeah, oh, okay,
so.
okay.
California School Board Association has a webinar on, available to school board members at 3 o'clock on Friday about the baby buys. You might wanna check that out.
It's at 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
Unless we do it tomorrow, then it'll be 3 p.m. That's what they said.
That's
I was like,
exactly what they
because they
said.
said, oh, it could come out tomorrow, and if it does, then we'll do it.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes our governor does it on TV, so we can all watch it.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Oh, I'll
Second.
second it. Oh, no, you got it.
Fight over it.
All
You
those-
get a turn, go
All
ahead.
those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very productive.